Mary Kay Letourneau was a school teacher, very well respected by the community. She was the girl next door.
She was young and beautiful. She was married and had kids. Her husband was a good-looking guy, and they sort of had this perfect marriage.
Court documents allege the relationship began last June. Detectives say the 13-year-old boy has admitted to the relationship, saying he had intercourse with the teacher a number of times.
I think she was looking for somebody that was going to pay a lot of attention to her, and an infatuated 13-year-old is going to do exactly that.
Vili Fualaau is the 12, 13-year-old boy.
Vili Fualaau. And Fualaau. Right?
The Mary Kay Letourneau case had just the right formula. She was beautiful. He was underprivileged, but seemed older. She said it was a love story. She said that she was the Joan of Arc of forbidden love.
Mary Letourneau was alone. No family, no friends. As she came to face charges, she had an 8-month affair with a 13-year-old male student.
We didn't know what we were going to see. We didn't know who this person was. And it was shocking. She was Barbie. She was so cute. And she had a bump. She was pregnant. We didn't know that.
I said, "Are you pregnant with Vili's baby?" And her answer, and I'll never ever forget this as long as I live, she said, "Well, it's 99.9% not my husband's."
We are here for sentencing this morning, the defendant having pled guilty to 2 counts of rape of a child in the 2nd degree.
Did Mary ever understand that this was a relationship with a child? The short answer, no.
I just couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Here's a successful teacher. She had everything going for her. And here's this kid, this 13-year-old boy that's now going to be a dad with a 36-year-old woman. I was pissed off that she had the audacity to do something like that to this kid and his family.
The state's recommendation, Your Honor, is for a prison sentence. The state is recommending a mid-range sentence of 78 months of confinement on each count to run concurrently in the Department of Corrections.
She was evaluated by a number of defense experts, and our conclusion was that not only was she not an appropriate candidate for this alternative sentence, but that she also wasn't deserving of it, having been a school teacher.
We're asking that Mary be sentenced to a SOSA treatment program. In another regard, our recommendation is tougher than the state's.
Oh, hell no. Mary, there's no way Mary thought she was a sex offender. We all have the image. We know who a sex offender is. You can walk down the street and you see them. They're sort of pasty white and doughy or creepy looking. Mary looked in the mirror and she was beautiful. There's no way she was a sex offender.
While a sentence to prison is never an ideal solution, I do believe it is the appropriate one in this case. I've noted in my report the reasons why I feel this case is more serious than typical, and for those reasons I am recommending a sentence at the high end of the range of 89 months.
She has maintained that he made passes at her. It's really hard to believe. He was 12 years old. She was his teacher. She used to give him tutoring. She thought he had potential as an artist, and she wanted to encourage that.
In terms of the contact you've had with her, what have you observed of her emotional state during this process?
She has been extremely tearful, highly distraught.
Has she shown signs of remorse?
Yes, she has certainly talked about how difficult and how painful this particular situation is, if that defines, and how it has affected her, and her family on many, many levels.
I do recall that his mother, the victim's mother, did not want her to go to prison.
I've heard what the prosecutors have recommended, and I feel that Mary has been punished enough for her mistake.
Well, Vili was the youngest of 4 kids, a single mother. She had been married, was married, but her husband was in prison.
His father said Vili was like a chip off the old block once Vili had gotten involved with Mary.
I do not feel that is a crime. My son does not feel victimized. So I plead today, please send Mary to treatment. Jail will not benefit anyone.
I think it's sad that people got enjoyment out of this, out of following the story, even though I was a reporter on it, that they did think it was a love story, didn't look below the surface, didn't see how many people were hurt by it.
She indicated to me in the most explicit possible language that she was fully willing to reunite with this boy. I have very real concerns that she'll attempt to resume the relationship.
What was really strange about Mary is that she always said it was immoral because she was his teacher, but it was not. She never thought it was illegal.
Doctor, you did render an opinion about Ms. Letourneau's amenability for treatment
Yes,
within
I
the
did.
community. And what is that opinion?
My opinion is that at the present time she's not amenable and not appropriate for treatment on an outpatient community basis. Of concern to me was that throughout the 7.5 hours of interviewing, Ms. Letourneau does not acknowledge that her conduct constituted rape. In fact, the only crime that she admitted that she committed was infidelity to her husband.
I don't truly believe that a 13-year-old really has any concept of what real love is yet. He didn't have the chance to finish out normal education because his life was completely destroyed, really. So this love didn't do him any favors. Certainly, Mary got her notoriety. I mean, she became famous. She's thrived on it.
I think there's very real reason to be concerned that this woman simply is not going to comply with the authorities. She may have a bipolar disorder. In my opinion, she also has a personality disorder. But the question here is one of whether she can be treated and where she can be best treated.
Our expert found that Mary Kay Letourneau suffered from narcissism, histrionic personality, and antisocial personality. These are personality disorders, not mental disorders.
She exhibits an extremely intense attachment to him. I didn't see any evidence throughout 7.5 hours of interviewing and giving her plenty of opportunities to recognize that she was going to have to loosen that attachment. But there was no such acknowledgement. On the contrary, she indicated to me in the most explicit possible language that she was fully willing to reunite with this boy, irrespective of other considerations. I have very real concerns that she'll attempt to resume the relationship.
The media repeatedly referred to it as an affair, a teenage romance. It wasn't an affair. It was the sexual abuse of a child, not an affair.
Please help me. Help us. Help us all.
I had been telling her, you've got to play this game. Go to treatment, even if you think you don't need it. You'll learn something. But you know who really pissed me off? Was her damn friends that kept feeding her, it's love. You have a constitutional right to life and liberty and pursuit of happiness, and you should fire Gerke and you should appeal this to the state Supreme Court and get them to overturn it. And they were telling her this, and one of her friends actually bought a cell phone and snuck it to Vili so he could communicate with Mary, knowing that there was a no contact order.
The reason he's a victim is because he's a child, he's a minor, he was under her influence as his teacher. He idolized Mary, and she should have seen that and recognized it and put a stop to it.
He never had a chance to grow up. He was thrust from being a boy to being a man, and we all know that there's a process in there to get to be a man. He didn't have that opportunity.
Your Honor, this court extended the defendant a privilege that she has demonstrated that she does not deserve. This woman who stood up before the court and demurely proclaimed to this court, "Help me, help us all," clearly has no intention of helping herself or helping any of the individuals she has harmed. This court has no option today but to immediately revoke the 89-month suspended sentence. She should be sent to prison.
I feel like I have let you down. and I know that I have let Mary down. I'm a friend of Mary's, and I'm an advocate of Mary's because of my profession, my friendship, and my loyalty. You made the right decision November 14th, Your Honor. We all recognized that Mary is sick and that she needs help. Your Honor, the person that really needs to be protected for Mary Letourneau is Mary Letourneau. We need to protect her from herself, and locking her up is not going to do that.
Less than 3 months ago, you were given the opportunity, Ms. Letourneau, for treatment. Within weeks of your release from jail, you purposely violated the conditions of your sentence. The suspended sentence is hereby revoked, and the original sentence of 89 months is imposed.
I think Mary thought he was an old soul, and Mary was going to stick with him, no matter what. She felt like she understood him, that he was a savant, and that he really needed her. She felt that way until the end. I know, she told me.
The state did not believe that Ms. Letourneau was ever an appropriate candidate for treatment. Judge Lau did give her the opportunity to show that she was a suitable treatment candidate. The problem is she proved that the state was correct. She did violate the terms of her community treatment and the conditions of the judgment and sentence.
Mary broke the law as it was written. The judge treated her properly both times, and I feel sorry for everybody involved.
I don't recall any case in my career that the public ever came to the defense of a man who offended against a child of the same age by saying, you should look away, they're in love.
She rejected her 4 kids, and the pain that they must have felt at that rejection because she preferred a new life with this boy. I don't understand how people can think that's just some romantic love story. That's a tragedy.
The media reported that he didn't see himself as a victim. Frankly, at 12, 13, it's understandable that he didn't see himself as a victim. There were other victims here too, but they were unnamed victims. Her children by Steve Letourneau were victims. Steve Letourneau was a victim. And she seemed to have no awareness of that.
I think he was a victim who willingly participated in his own victimization.
I initiated the first kiss. We both initiated the oral sex. We both had each other's consent on every time we had intercourse. And I just never really meant for it to go this far.
Even toward the end of her life, she seemed not to accept any responsibility truly for what had happened. And she kind of was living in a fantasy land. She thought that this was wonderful, that they were in love.
At no time did Mary ever show any remorse. Her focus was on being with Vili for the rest of her life, no matter what. No matter what.
Katherine, Massey Book Club, context of white supremacy, worthless Negro from Virginia, Gus T. Renegade, and for another broadcast, hopefully to share constructive information on the global system of white supremacy. Today's date, Katrina Day, August 29, 2025. So I have been told. This is our 10th and final installment on the Katherine Massey Book Club of Gregg Olsen's If Loving You Is Wrong. picking up on Chapter 78. Last week during the live archive, I made 2 errors during the live broadcast, but they were corrected eventually in the archive. I left out Chapter 69. I'm grateful it was short. That was just the portion where they were talking about Mary Kay calling into the Oprah Winfrey show, and they said, man, that Oprah, she was mean. And, apparently Oprah Winfrey's not a fan of child rape. She didn't think this was love. But Chapter 69 is in the archives, and then somehow we had a repeat of Chapter 75. So the archive, like I said, has been corrected. I think I even had to go back and do the archive a couple times to make sure I got it correct. But archive is correct, no misses, no repeats, and all that other goofiness. Anywho, the audio at the beginning, or the music, I have to say, for one, so that is the Robert Glasper Experiment that we started off with. Smells Like Teen Spirit. We are 206 all the way through, and that is them doing a cover of Nirvana. Kurt Cobain, who we talked about before on the Cows, doing a cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit, 90s classic. But that is Robert Glasper, the Robert Glasper Experiment, doing that song live here in Seattle on KEXP, Seattle Public Radio, 206 through and through. Now, the specific audio segment about Mary Kay, that from the documentary The Judgment of Mary Kay, which is available on YouTube. It's about an hour. It's a lot of the people that we heard before and that we've read about for the last month or so. David Gerke, the defense attorney, and Karen O'Leary, blonde Stanford reporter, white woman. Lots of these folks that we've already heard about, but this is a more recent documentary, so they can have some perspective on all of this. And we heard Dave Gerke and Ann Brimmer. Ann Brimmer is the one, white woman. She is an attorney who eventually fought to defend the Des Moines Police Department and School District, to say, hey, we didn't do anything wrong. We did as much as we could. We didn't neglect our responsibilities to protect Vili from a white child rapist. She fought successfully to make sure Vili and his family did not get any money. He's no victim. But she's the one, white blonde, who said, see, Vili's dad, when he found out about all this in prison, said, see, Vili is chip off the old block. That was blonde Ann Brimmer, suspected racist. And she's the one who said that this story was so appealing because, Mary Kay was so pretty and beautiful, and Vili was underprivileged, whatever that means. We heard Karen O'Leary, the white reporter, Stanford, blonde. She said, saying that Barbie, I don't think we've heard that comparison before, that Mary Kay is Barbie. Sheesh. We heard from the detective Pat Malley, who is a white woman, not blonde, who was part of the arrest. And she's the one who said that I knew Mary Kay was going to reoffend. I didn't think this was love and all of that. I thought she was a child rapist, and I knew she was going to offend. We put secret or undercover agents to follow her because I knew she was going to go back with that non-white boy, which she did. The white female prosecutor, Lisa Johnson, who is also blonde, who successfully prosecuted this case, she said that she thought it was a shame that people thought of this as entertainment, that they didn't take the time to look at this and say, wait a minute, there were a lot of victims here. Vili was a victim and lots of other people as well. Matter of fact, that was Karen O'Leary who said that, not Lisa Johnson. Be accurate with my white women. Then we heard Dave Gerke, Mary Kay's defense attorney. He was the one who said, hey, we all know what a child rapist, child molester looks like. Pasty, white, doughy, creepy. Can I get a shout for Trayvon Martin and the creepy ass cracker who he thought was following him in Sanford, Florida? Man, he didn't say Diddy, he didn't say R. Kelly, he said somebody pasty and white like Woody Allen. I don't know if he meant white like racial classification, white, or white as in pale, lacking melanin color. So after we got through all that, Dr. Robert Wheeler, white man, Now, he was a psychiatrist during the trial, and he said, and he was talking, this is the first time around, he says, hey, Mary Kay, I'm concerned that she's going to reoffend. She made no acknowledgement that she raped this boy, and really, how can you blame her? Because no one says she raped this child. He's not a victim, and he said she made it explicit in the clearest terms possible that she had no intention of complying with her parole regulations. She is going to go back with this child rape victim. They sat there and listened to Mr. Wheeler, who is not quoted in this book at all. They sat there and listened to him say all of this and then let her go and do exactly what he said she was going to do. Come on, man. Come on. Then when she does all this, goes back and rapes Vili, then we hear David Gerke in court saying, you know, the person who really needs to be protected from Mary Kay Letourneau. Mary Kay, are you serious? She's a victim. Vili isn't a victim, but Mary Kay is a victim to Mary Kay. White people clown. Let's see. And then that was the same white attorney, Ann Bremer, blonde, who fought to make sure Vili and them family didn't get no money, who comes back and says, hey, man, Mary Kay, she told me. I know she told me at the end. This 20 years later. Mary Kay thought Vili was an old soul. We hear that tired line again, whatever that means. You talk about he was an old shoe? He didn't have no shoes. He was an old soul and a savant. Wait a minute. A savant is a noun, a person with a profound or extensive learning. In the context of savant syndrome, as I say, you're an idiot savant, refers to an individual with a developmental disorder. Like, do what? The Vili ain't got no profound or extensive learning. How people thought Vili was illiterate. He dropped out of school. What you mean extensive? He's a DJ. What you mean he extensive? He's a child rape victim. Barbie. And then we got at the end, that was both Karen O'Leary and prosecuting attorney Lisa Johnson, who both took turns articulating in their own way Vili was a victim, and Detective Pat Malley did as well, white woman, not blonde, brunette, who said, hey man, that's what the reason that we have these rape laws in the first place, to protect the child. What 12, 13-year-old child wouldn't be excited about getting attention from an adult, especially a white woman? Who wouldn't be excited about that? In fact, what 12, 13-year-old child in R. Kelly's heyday wouldn't be excited about getting attention from him? That's why we have child rape laws. She said, I have never, the white woman prosecutor, I've never seen all this caping for a white child rapist. Who would be up here talking, Diddy talking about, hey. Now the freak-offs, that's about love. What? Nobody would entertain any of this nonsense except for Barbie. Blonde. Perfect. All a minute. No. Vili is a victim. That's why we have these laws. And even said, that was Karen O'Leary, white reporter, he was a victim who participated in his own victimization. That's all of the victims of white supremacy in the known universe participate in our own victimization. And then they turn around and say the same thing to us they said to Vili. You ain't no victim. Deny. Katherine Massey Book Club, Context of White Supremacy. Gregg Olsen's If Loving You Is Wrong. Audio segment 1.
Chapter 78. The Seattle freelancer for Spin magazine, Matthew Stadler, had been a friendly contact for many of the journalists stopping off in Seattle to court Mary Letourneau, and, more critically it seemed, her lawyers. Among those he met with was James Kent, whom he found very straightforward and ethical, nearly an island in the sea of garbage that had accumulated around the story since it went worldwide, with the second arrest and the disclosure of her second pregnancy. James Kent later refused to say much about his Seattle meeting with book ghostwriter Bob Graham, other than to say the tabloid reporter was very dismissive of the BBC and said, "Go home, boy." Matthew Stadler called it a setup arranged by Bob Huff. It was dinner at the OK Corral. He literally told James to get out of town. This was his. It was humiliating and horrible, and he hated not only Graham, but Huff for setting the whole thing up. Bob Huff later admitted that it was important to send a message that the Letourneau story was not for the taking. "I remember Bob Graham and I getting pissed off at the other guys. We wanted to protect our interests. There were all these people buzzing around our pile of crap, and we wanted them out of here." After the kiss-off from Bob Graham, ostensibly the author of the French book about Mary Kay Letourneau, James Kent's resolve became even stronger. He'd press on with the story. He flew to Chicago to see Kate, the college friend, whose frequent collect calls from Mary had been one of the chief means of information concerning Mary's support of various projects that involved her. According to James Kent, through Kate Stewart, Mary had indicated that she still supported the BBC film and wanted to remain involved. "I don't think I've signed away my rights," she told Kate, who passed along the information. After that Chicago visit, things improved considerably. Mary called James Kent 15 or 20 times. Bob Graham and the FICSO project be damned. It didn't seem to matter, not when the BBC had Mary Kay Letourneau calling the shots from prison herself, or so James Kent had believed. But just as others found out, with the Mary Kay Letourneau story, nothing lasts forever. Bob Graham employed tabloid tactics to ensure that his story was protected. James Kent was appalled when he learned that the ghostwriter had told principals in the Letourneau story that Inside Story was tabloid trash akin to Inside Edition. Nothing could be further from the truth. Inside Story was a documentary series of which there was probably no American counterpart in terms of quality. It got back to him that Bob Graham had told sources that the BBC did hatchet jobs on people. Another time, James Kent received a disturbing call from the author. "I did receive a very threatening phone call from him, telling me that I had gone around telling interviewees that it was all right for them to talk to me, the BBC, because Lafont had no objections. I never told one interviewee that. He said that if that continued, he'd sue me in the BBC." At the same time, Bob Graham made it clear that he, not Mary, was running the show. Mary Letourneau had kept James Kent and the BBC on a string for as long as she could. No one could confirm her motives, other than that she wanted to keep her options open. She wanted to control something in which she could not fully participate. But she pulled back away from the one producer who seemed sympathetic and genuinely concerned about her. "That was to me a broken promise," he said. Something else crossed James Kent's mind. He wondered if the love affair had run its course, and that was the real reason for Mary Kay's silence, and indeed the silence of others close to the case. Maybe people were keeping mum because Vili Fualaau was no longer pining for his teacher, the mother of one baby with another on the way. If Vili Fualaau has already found someone else, it is a bit of a mockery, isn't it? It undermines Mary Kay's case that there was a deep and meaningful love relationship, James Kent thought. The manner in which those closest to Mary Kay doled out their attentions made many feel they were doing reporters and producers a personal favor by even entertaining the possibility of an interview. The distrust and animosity from those who were speaking on Mary Kay's behalf was uncalled for and undoubtedly detrimental to her position. "You are so lucky, the BBC is so lucky, you are going to get the chance to speak to Mary Kay Letourneau. Mary Kay needs the media more than the media needs Mary Kay," James Kent said later. "This is something her attorneys fail to recognize, apart from David. She's the one in jail. No one seems interested in getting her out." Chapter 79. A funny thing had happened to Mary Kay Letourneau on the way to prison. She had become the center of a freak show, Globe's favorite cover girl, an editor's antidote for flagging sales, a producer's favorite incarcerated get. Mary Kay Letourneau went from person to property, money maker. All she had wanted to do was get her message out. Bipolar or not, she wanted the world to know that she loved a boy and he returned that love. No matter what people thought the story was, she said, it was about two families and it was about love. She was hopeful that the French book would change the way some viewed her. Lawyers Bob Huff and David Gerke had repeatedly insisted Paris-based C.O.W.S was a publishing company without peer in the entire world, and there'd be no selling Mary Kay's story short. Bob Graham, they also said, was the right writer for the job of taking her words and formatting them into a book. But when the ghostwriter left the women's prison after a pair of interviews in 1998, she had been left holding the bag. "I remember when Bob Graham was leaving and I told him," she told a friend later, "we haven't touched on a big part of the story." According to Mary Kay, he never returned. Mary Kay recalled how her biographer said he didn't feel she trusted him enough. It was true that she did have an uncomfortable feeling about the writer, but the publisher chose him. She'd had no choice. There had been no interview to see if he was compatible, or even if he was a writer worthy of her story from a literary point of view. "I was reluctant," she said. "I have to follow my heart on some things, and I have a good sense about people. And I didn't feel good about Bob Graham from the beginning." As the weeks passed, Mary Kay's pregnancy brought a fullness to the gaunt features seen when she was arrested in January. Mary Kay told friends she was grateful for the baby. The pregnancy was a diversion from her own troubles as she waited for the writer to return. She had ideas, things that she wanted to say. The summer ran into the fall, and an upbeat Mary Kay told other prisoners that she would be getting out just after the baby came. She'd be given a pardon or a trial. Something would free her. She saw that something as the French memoir. As the due date of her second baby with Vili grew closer, Mary Kay began to worry and maybe even accept that freedom wouldn't come as quickly as hoped. She was suspicious that her stubble-bearded lawyer Bob Huff was not forthcoming about the French book and its publication schedule. When the lawyer visited her a day or two before leaving Seattle for Paris in the fall of 1998, Mary Kay would later say he was evasive. He told her he was thinking about going to France to determine what was going on with the book. His remarks were so casual, so offhanded. What he didn't tell her was that the book was already finished, and he had a copy. "I had no idea he was going the next day. He made it sound vague, like he was only considering going to clear up some business matters with C.O.W.S. He didn't say he was going on a book tour with his teenage daughter, David Gerke, and Vili. I didn't know the book was even printed. As far as I was concerned, we hadn't even finished it yet." But it was. "Un seul crime, l'amour," only one crime, love, was a hastily assembled volume of interviews of Vili, Suna, and Mary Kay. Mary Kay told friends that chunks of text were simply not true. Disclosures of sex in cars and around every corner of the block were not the words of a soulful and loving young man like Vili. Having sex 200 or 300 times was not the message that she had wanted out. Blanks were filled in the rush to get the book out while the story was still hot. "I know what happened," she said, bitterness creeping into her normally sweet voice. "Bob Huff got impatient, and instead of waiting for the writer, he drove Vili around Seattle talking into a tape recorder. They filled in the blanks with David and Bob. You can hear David's voice in the book, too." She didn't blame Vili for what he had put into print. She saw Vili as a bit of a chameleon when it came to interacting with others. Put him in a car with a lawyer like Robert Huff, and how do you think he's going to respond? He's going to act just like Bob because he wants to be liked, to fit in. Bob's like a surrogate father to him. Bob Huff later refuted Mary Kay's allegations. He had been working around the clock with the book and didn't know that he was headed to Paris until a few days before he left. There wasn't time to reach Mary Kay. He admitted that he helped to adapt the English manuscript to French. He was fluent in French, and the publishing crunch was on to get it out, while the interest in the story was still high. He did not fabricate any of the content. "I couldn't make any of this up," he explained. "It's too wild." But Vili Fualaau's lawyer suggested that perhaps the teacher's young lover did have a tendency to stretch the truth. Bob recalled one time when he and the boys, writer Bob Graham and Vili, were hanging out at Bob Graham's rented place in the Belltown section of Seattle, discussing the book's content. Vili's details of conquests with his teacher grew more and more outrageous. "You know how it goes," Bob Huff said later of the locker room banter. But I did learn later that Vili did make up some stories. but we didn't need any bullshit. There was enough of a good story there. Even if inaccurate, the book made headlines, as did nearly everything associated with the former teacher. But if she had hoped the book would help her, there was a postcard in the back, pre-addressed to Washington State Governor Gary Locke with a plea for clemency. It only made matters worse. While she wrote of her undying and spiritual love for Vili, the teen wrote of waiting to have sex with her and betting a friend $20 that he could nail his teacher, and living in her car while she was released from the King County Jail. Mary Kay and Vili also wrote how they had disregarded the law and continued to see each other after her arrest at Shorewood Elementary. When she went into labor, it was Vili who drove her to the hospital, though at 13 he didn't have a license and couldn't manage a stick shift. Mary took over and drove the rest of the way. Other details were revealed, from the ridiculous, Mary Kay wore Mickey Mouse underwear at her sentencing, to the shocking, the sex. Vili wrote of a life in a violent home in the hood, of sex with other girls, of influencing preteen Steve Letourneau to abandon his preppy ways for a gangster style, while he was sleeping with the boy's mother. He had no respect for Steve Letourneau as a man or a husband. Before they consummated their relationship, Mary Kay had even told Vili that when 2-year-old Jacqueline was of age, Vili should marry the girl. Mary Claire, she said, was too much like her father to be worthy of Vili's love. And while Vili struck the tough kid pose, Mary Kay's chapters, for the most part, were sweeter than a Hallmark card. The book also described Mary Kay's month of freedom in January 1998 as one sexual escapade after another. She wrote how she even sneaked Vili into music teacher Beth Adair's Seattle house for nights of sex. When Mary was arrested the second time, in the car with the steamed-up windows, Vili wrote how she had threatened suicide and how they had devised a Romeo and Juliet pact. Mary later said there had never been any thought of suicide. She had read a biography of Virginia Woolf and learned how the author had loaded stones in her pockets before walking into a lake. She joked, she said, that she could do the same thing. The lake was right there. It was not serious. Maybe I could put some rocks in my pockets and walk into Lake Washington. It was not a threat. It was a joke. Suna Fualaau lambasted the Highline School District when spokesman Nick Latham told a TV reporter that her son had lied about going on a promotional trip to France to market a book. According to Nick Latham, the boy had said he was going to Europe to study art. She told us that we had no right to say anything about her son, nothing whatsoever, the district spokesman said later. Chapter 80. Vili Fualaau was in Paris with his lawyers while Mary Kay went into labor and was rushed from the prison in an ambulance driven by Gig Harbor Fire Department paramedics on October 16, 1998. She was taken to St. Joseph's Medical Center in downtown Tacoma while the troop of media, groupies, and friends began to assemble to keep the vigil. A rumor circulated that the Globe had offered up to $50,000 for the first photograph of mother and baby. Nurses were put on notice to keep a wary eye for the media. At 36, Mary Kay became a mother for the 6th time, when she gave birth to Alexis Georgia Fualaau. But this was not the blissful birth of a baby born to a woman who would take her home and place her in the family's bassinet lined with the beautiful fabric from Duchamp's. It was about a prisoner who handed her baby over to the infant girl's grandmother before being carted back to her cell. The babies' names remained a point of contention between Suna and Mary Kay. Mary Kay had wanted to name her first baby with Vili Audrey Anna, but Suna nixed it as being too similar to the name of another family member. When the second baby was born, Suna refused to call the infant Georgia. In time, Mary Kay and her friends were the only ones who did. "I'm getting used to these little fussy battles," Mary Kay said later, choosing her words carefully. "Suna and I don't always agree." The big question after the second baby was born was not how Vili Fualaau felt about being a father for the second time, but whether his soulmate would be charged with a second count of rape. Prosecutors had said they considered filing a third-degree rape charge against her, but had decided enough was enough. No more charges would be filed. There's no legal barrier to prosecution of Mary Kay Letourneau, King County Prosecutor Norm Malling said. It is instead a question of justice, 7.5 years is a substantial punishment for the conduct involved. And poof, it was over. Or some had thought, and hoped it would be. Few worked the media like teacher and student. Vili appeared on TV for money, and Mary Kay called in to give her side of the story. She was hurt when Vili went off to France with Bob Huff's teenage daughter, and pictures of the pair appeared in the Globe. The tabloid even reported that Vili had several flings with neighborhood girls, though his heart still belonged to Mary Kay. "I'm still in love with Mary, and I still wear her ring. I'm not going to sit around and wait and cry my eyes out. I'm going to keep busy," he told Inside Edition. Things were tough for the toast of Paris, as David Gerke called Vili, when he returned to Seattle after the book tour. Vili was booted out of school for openly smoking pot on school grounds. Bob Huff showed up with his client to argue the boy's case before the school district. "It was the first time I've ever heard of a suspended kid bringing a lawyer to defend him on a routine suspension. Her son could have taken drug abuse counseling and enrolled back into class. Instead, they fought it," said a district employee. TV reporter Karen O'Leary and others who followed the case knew that the whole sad Letourneau affair would never really be over. It would rear up once more and remind the world that the teacher and the student were still around. On the afternoon of November 9th, the cracking voice on a police scanner indicated a shooting, a self-inflicted gunshot at a home in White Center. The address seemed familiar, and Karen confirmed it for the news crew headed out with a camera. It was the home of Neely Fualaau. "I was hoping that it wasn't Vili, that it wasn't some suicide. I thought of the love story he and Mary had tried to promote, and I wondered if the final chapter for the teenager had been written," Karen O'Leary said. In the middle of the afternoon, Vili's brother, Perry, had been shot in the abdomen while reportedly fooling around with a gun with a cousin. The 17-year-old's injuries were severe, and he was hospitalized for several weeks, reportedly with a loss of a kidney, damage to his spleen, and other serious injuries. Vili, his children, and Suna were not at home at the time. Family members said they were living in a hotel paid for by Inside Edition. When KIRO news crews got there, David Gerke told them the family had no comment. Later, Karen O'Leary wondered why David would have been there at all. Mary Kay had fired him after she hired the Boston lawyer Susan Howards and filed her appeal in the spring. And as far as she knew, he never really directly handled anything for the Fualaus. "He just doesn't want to be left out, that's all," Karen suggested. Mary Kay went ballistic at the news of the shooting. Her daughters were living in an unsafe environment. She told a friend that she even phoned in a complaint to the authorities to have her kids removed from Suna's care, but nothing happened. She also worried about Vili. "I'm hurting for Vili, the lack of support he is getting. I don't expect Suna and the others to support Vili and me. Why would they do that? But they should support who he is and what he should be doing with his life. Vili deserves the recognition for his talent, his genius. I'm struggling with my loyalty to them when they show none to me," she told a friend. Though it wasn't fast enough for her lawyer and the Fualaus, Mary Kay spent most nights during the first part of 1999 working on the English-language translation of the Fixo book. She told friends she was distressed by the gross inaccuracies she found in the manuscript. At night, she pulled out a little aqua trunk as a table and slid a reading lamp close to her bed and worked into the early morning, revising, commenting, and even laughing. A few times she read the passages out loud to her cellmate, and the two would nearly roll on the floor in hysterics. It was ludicrous. The last line was the topper. Bob Graham had written a scene that smacked of an old Susan Hayward movie. She was calling out through the bars for understanding. "I beg of you, this is love. I beg of you." From her prison phone, her lifeline to the world, Mary Kay told a friend perhaps the most shocking aspect of her story. Her children were being kept from her, she claimed, because she hadn't finished the revisions for the English version of Only One Crime, Love. Bob Huff bristled at the idea that anyone was keeping the children away from Mary Kay. He remembered seeing paperwork associated with arranging prison visitation with Mary and her babies. It was proof, he believed, of Suna's desire to allow Mary Kay to see Audrey and Georgia Alexis. I don't think Suna is that diabolical to pull off this big scam of creating the letters and acting like she's trying if it wasn't really true. Mary Kay also feared that they'd release the book without her input. I will say it's not me if they step over the line like that. I'll call every news media person I know, and they'll put me on the air. I will go down the line on this, and Bob and David know it. Ghostwriter Bob Graham used his interviews with Mary Kay Letourneau one more time in the winter of 1999, when he wrote a pair of pieces for the London Sunday Times magazine and a London tabloid. The article quoted Bob Huff as saying that Mary Kay had threatened to say Vili had raped her if he didn't do the right thing and marry her. "That's Mary for you," Bob Huff reportedly said. "She wants her way, no matter what happens." Mary Kay said she wanted to call Bob Huff to ask why he would say such a thing. "But I can't. He doesn't have a phone that works, at least one that I know of." "Can you imagine having a lawyer who doesn't have a phone number?" she asked. In January 1999, Mary Kay spoke on a Seattle radio show hosted by a DJ known as the T-Man. A few days after she told the world how much she loved Vili, a letter was dispatched to the station. The prison considered the radio interview third-party contact with the victim, a violation of Mary Kay's sentence. Vili hadn't been on the show at the same time, not even on the same day. But the prison saw it as Mary using the media to get her message of love and hope for marriage out to the teenage father of two. According to Mary, Bob Huff was livid. "Any time you speak to any sector of the media, the less value your name has," she recalled him telling her in a fit after the radio broadcast. The TV movie announced by USA Network also occupied Mary Kay's time, and though she didn't have a direct financial interest in it, she was ever hopeful that money would be funneled to her children. Casting was a source of amusement. Tatum O'Neal, Daryl Hannah, Gail O'Grady, even Callista Flockhart were mentioned as possible Mary Kays. They were too old, not pretty enough, or too unknown to play the role, but Mary Kay acted as though she didn't care one way or another. It was New York producer Sonny Grosso's and loyal friend Susan Gerke's project, and whatever it was would be out of her control anyway. "I very much trust Sonny Grosso. He's like a favorite uncle," she said. "He would make sure it was true. Whatever the movie is, it will be true." Mary Kay spent 5 hours a day in the clinic expressing milk for her baby and storing it in a freezer that the prison bought for her use. "I know other nursing mothers could use it too, but I feel like it's mine, my own little freezer." Susan Gerke made several trips a week to pick up frozen breast milk for baby Georgia, baby Alexis, whatever name she was called. According to what Mary Kay told a friend, after the first of the year, the Fualaus had found a video of her teaching class and wanted to sell it to Inside Edition. They needed the money. For a family who had once lived on next to nothing, who had been on welfare and made do, they needed the cash that Mary Kay's name could bring. Mary was upset about the suggestion of airing the video and said it could not be used. There were students of hers in the video, and it was out of the question to get them involved in something like that. The turning point, if there could be one for Mary Kay, came during the February 1999 television broadcast sweeps, when Vili Fualaau went before the cameras on Inside Edition with a fistful of letters written to him by the mother of his 2 children. It was an appearance for money. It was also evident that the rift between Mary Kay and Suna had widened. In one of the 5 letters, Mary Kay accused Audrey and Georgia's grandmother of stealing our babies and not caring enough about Vili. She also sounded like a girl obsessed with her boyfriend. "The only kids you're having are mine. I'll give you 18 if that's what you want, but your babies are mine," she wrote. 18 was the number of children that Vili's imprisoned father had sired, the man Vili had once told 6th-grade classmate Katie Hogden he had never wanted to emulate. But it was the letter with the heading, "Test Time," that brought the most attention. She wrote how she threatened automatic castration if he even looked at another girl. He thought she sounded a little crazy, but he liked the fact that she wanted him to be true to her. After the Inside Edition show aired, Mary Kay told friends she was shocked and appalled about the betrayal. "I told them no, and I guess they had to find something else to sell. It is okay for Vili to sell me out," she said shortly after the program aired. Her voice caught in her throat a bit, indicating that maybe it wasn't so okay after all. "I guess they needed the income," she said. Steve Letourneau also found dollars as reason to weigh in and slam his wife once more during the sweep's rating period. He appeared on the low-rated Extra, telling the world that Mary Kay had to take responsibility for what she did before he could forgive her. During the tumultuous last 2 years of Steve and Mary Kay Letourneau's marriage, a total of 4 children were born of their extramarital relationships. But what of Mary Kay's children, her 6 angels? The 4 in Alaska were off limits because baggage handler Steve Letourneau had decided that was best. But what of the youngest? Even during her long summer of waiting for the sentencing, Mary Kay had been allowed to have baby Audrey. She had also seen Audrey in the King County Regional Justice Center, but not at the prison. Mary Kay told friends that the paperwork for which Suna was responsible was the big holdup in arranging visits with Audrey and Georgia. When the weeks melted into months through a third party, Mary Kay confronted the Samoan Queen. "Why is it taking you, Suna, nearly 3 months to comply?" Mary Kay had asked. The purported response from the 40-year-old grandmother was chilling. "Have you finished the English manuscript?" Those were her exact words. "I almost didn't believe it," Mary Kay later said, "but others have said the same thing." Tensions between Mary, her lawyers, and the Fualaus escalated in the months since Georgia's birth. Mary told friends that she certainly understood where Vili's mother stood when it came to caring for the 2 babies. Suna Fualaau deserved respect for taking the children in, and, more importantly, for standing up and saying that Mary Kay Letourneau wasn't an evil predator, but a part of their family. But why wasn't she getting the babies down to the prison? Though for most, Mary Kay kept a brave face and a smile so indelible a Sharpie could have drawn it, there were times when it seemed things were sinking in. "Where are my babies?" she asked. "All I hear is, 'Are you done with the book?' But I have to play along. What choice do I have?" But she couldn't finish it. The book was such a shambles, such a farce, that she couldn't fix it fast enough. It was her life, not theirs, after all. "At best, I think I can make it a C+, but doesn't our story deserve better than that?" Even a year after she traded her baggy jeans and layers of oversized T-shirts for prison garb, Mary Kay Letourneau wasn't over insofar as the media was concerned. Personally, however, she was running out of steam despite the fact that the public was still interested. She was still news. She appeared over the phone on Oprah during the winter 1999 television advertising sweeps. "I didn't know what sweeps was," she told a friend with an exaggerated sigh. "Now I know that when they want to boost their ratings, it means putting me on the air." According to Mary Kay, Bob Huff sent a letter in early 1999 stating that he found her entirely responsible for the delay of the American edition of the book. Nothing, Mary Kay believed from everyone around her, but the book mattered. "You seem to be totally out of touch with the reality with the book in completing your part. You have 1,000,001 excuses." According to Mary Kay's interpretation of the missive, Bob Huff was going to demand Vili's share of the advance and cut her out because she was in violation of the contract. "Vili is the golden egg to Huff," Mary Kay told a friend not long after the ultimatum was made. "Through my name, he gets that title. He gets the money because of it. If Vili and I were married, Bob doesn't get his 20% because we don't need him." All she could do was dial phone numbers and wait for a jaded world to right a wrong, for her lawyers to drop off the face of the earth, for Vili to make good on his promise to love her forever. The problem was that Vili was still a boy, unable to make adult decisions for himself. His mother and his lawyer, Bob Huff, needed him. And, as Mary saw it, It was better for those players that she was confined to a cell at the Washington Correction Center for Women. For a while she kept thinking that she was getting out of here any day now, a fellow prisoner said a year after Mary Kay became an inmate there. She kept saying that Vili was working on getting her out of here. I felt sorry for her. I wouldn't count on Vili for anything. He's just a kid. He's not working on getting her out. As long as she's in here, she's worth something to them. Sad, isn't it? Isn't she something more than a way to make money? Yes, she was more. This teenager in a woman's body was a friend, a teacher, a mother, a felon. To some, she was also a predator, a child rapist. To Mary Kay herself, when soaring with manic enthusiasm, she was a goddess. Among the notes Steve Letourneau turned over to King County Detective Pat Maley was a list of attributes that Mary Kay had once written about herself. It was crafted in a diagram format, with circles and arrows leading from one word to the next, as she raced to reach the definition of who and what she was. Strong, smart, passion in life, beautiful, look young, loving, faithful, sunsets, a family, giver, sunny days, kissing, and lots of sex love. Me. Vili Fualaau, on the other hand, is still trying to figure out who he is and how he fits into the world. His body has morphed from a boy's to a young man's since he first kissed his 6th grade teacher. His mustache has grown from a shaky C to a solid B. He's taller. He smokes. He attends school sporadically, and girls flock to him in greater numbers than they might have before all of this happened. He alternates between seemingly shy and push-the-envelope outrageous. A father of 2, he's a teenager trapped with a grown man's responsibility. He's seen the world's highs and lows and is connecting the dots in between. Lawyer Bob Huff isn't sure about the kid's prospects. He's only sure of what might have been. The whirlwind of the Mary Kay Letourneau story both lifted Vili up and pulled him down. Besides a trip to Paris, a little money in a trust, which ain't that much, he's not better off. When we were promoting the story in France, there was the brush with celebrity, the world of art. Maybe some scholarships would come his way. And then the big bubble burst, and nothing. The English version of the book didn't happen. It could have happened. I wanted that for Vili. I wanted him to be able to make the rounds here to tell his story. But Mary Kay ruined that. In the end, neither got what they wanted. Mary Kay had wanted her book to reach out and drain the venom from all the naysayers who dismissed her love for the boy and tagged her a rapist. Caught up in the heady mirage of media dollars, Vili and his family had simply wanted a better future, a piece of the pie. Depressed over the outcome, a canceled American edition of the French book, a stalled TV movie because the subject matter made television executives queasy, the lawyer charged with spinning the scandal into gold felt sorriest for the Fualaus. It's like people who win the lottery and are penniless the next year. That's what happened to Vili and his family, Bob Huff said. Pretty unbelievable. Pretty sad story. Acknowledgements and notes. Although there would be hours upon hours spent on the telephone, a face-to-face meeting with Mary Kay Letourneau would come only weeks before If Loving You Is Wrong was sent to the publisher in New York. The chance to see Mary arrived in the first week in February 1999. In fact, on the first anniversary of the night when she was found in her car with the steamed-up windows. In that year's time, so much had happened to her, and to my view of her story. I arrived at the Washington Correction Center for Women around 6:30 p.m., filled out the forms, had my photo taken, and stood in line with another fellow who was there to see his someone, his wife, his girlfriend, his mother, I didn't know who. "First time in?" the young man asked. I nodded. "Lots of famous people in there," he said, as we walked outside into the damp February air, chain link and razor wire as far as the eye could see, on our way to the building where visits were conducted. "Really?" I said. He smiled. "Yeah, I saw at the desk that someone is going to be seeing Mary Letourneau tonight." I sat down in a cafeteria-like visiting room and waited with the others for the visit to start. And I waited. As she always was, according to just about everyone who knew her, Mary was running late. I looked around and saw the women and their men, their children, playing cards and laughing. An old man set up a place for his daughter with all of her vending machine favorites, a Coke, a bag of chips, Reese's peanut butter cups, a Hershey bar, and 3 napkins fanned out in a place setting. When Mary finally arrived, I had been there for a half hour. The voice on the phone all those weeks was now a person. She was small, so thin, and her childlike demeanor startled me. She had come from the kitchen where she worked folding napkins. It was a job, she said. She didn't mind because she was still expressing milk for her baby. "I need to eat a little extra," she said. We talked about her life in prison, and she told me that it had been difficult, but she knew it wasn't forever. She chatted with a kind of exuberance that didn't fit her circumstances. I asked her about it, and she told me that she never gets depressed. She's an up person, and always had been. What had happened to her after she fell in love with her student was an inconvenience, but not the end of her world. I noticed her silver ring, and I asked to see the inscription. She tugged on the band for a second, then stopped herself, because it might be a violation of the rules. She wasn't sure. It was inscribed with, "I'll be there," she said. She told me how she and Vili had searched the Seattle area over in hopes of finding the perfect ring. Vili had even sketched out a design he had in mind. He also sketched the letters for the inscription. Everything, Mary said, was created for their perfect union. "I didn't know you could wear jewelry here," I said. "Only a wedding band," she answered. Her smile was coy. "Then you are married to Vili?" I asked. "Yes, and it is blessed," she said. I asked for details, but she didn't feel like giving any. I didn't want to bring up the fact that she was already married to Steve, and marrying Vili was another crime. She told me they had exchanged vows of eternal love on Mercer Island, an affluent suburb just east of Seattle, a world from White Center. She told me she could make it in prison another year, but she was fearful that she could not really survive her full sentence. "I'm willing to do a fair amount of time," she said, "but I don't think I can really make it here much longer than a year more." She wanted to be out so she could be with Vili. The teenager, the father of her youngest children, was not an enigma to Mary, but a masterful warrior who had captured her heart. He was younger than she by more than 20 years, but in some ways he was her superior. "It blows my mind," she said of the boy's character. "He's truly amazing. He dominated me in the most masculine way that any man, any leader could do. I trusted him and believed in him and in our future." Interestingly, while she talked about Vili at length, she barely mentioned her 4 oldest children, except to blame Steve for keeping them from her as they battled over custody issues in their divorce. Mary had given up everything, her family, her freedom, and her profession, for the love of a 13-year-old. He was an artistic genius, an old soul. He was the leader, she followed him. He was the master. He was the adoring object of her affections. That's how she saw it. The roles they embodied, she said, were from another era. He dominated her. "I am with Vili. If you are truly in love, the roles are natural." She never felt that way with Steve because he was not, she said, her equal. Like a teenager who refuses to do the dishes, Mary had been unyielding in her defiance and did nothing to bend to the rules of prison life. Inmates who had befriended her watched her dig herself in deeper. She didn't seem to realize going with the flow gets you out sooner. Pissing off the guards only leads to trouble. Trouble leads to a loss of good time. She learned how to do a few things, to bend, twist, and turn to do my little dance when guards demanded a strip search. She also learned how to blow smoke rings, and sometimes, like a lovesick teenager, would blow them into the sky with a wish they'd waft over the razor wire and find their way to White Center and Vili. Vili, she thought, was standing by her. He was Zeus. He was the man of her dreams, a godlike boy-man, whose love would hold them together no matter the bars between them. Or so she repeatedly said to inmates, guards, and visitors. She was younger than her years in nearly every way. She was charming, wide-eyed, and prone to a quick laugh. It struck me that she seemed so happy. No matter that she was in prison and away from the love of her life, and her children, and she would never teach school again. At times, she spoke in the exaggerated manner of a schoolteacher reciting a story in which she was the main character. Of course, others had told me that she acted young. Some were convinced that she was so good at teaching grade school because she identified with her students. Others had been harsh in their assessments. They saw her as a case of arrested development, stuck as an adolescent. I know Mary, no one but those who knew her in childhood or through media exposure calls her Mary Kay, would argue that nothing could be more beautiful than seeing the world through the eyes of a child. What is wrong with the giddy enthusiasm of youth? I left the prison that night with more questions than answers. Oddly, the questions had little to do with Mary. Instead, I wondered about those who knew her in the years and months before she became involved with her student. If her manner had not changed dramatically from those days to what I saw in prison, why hadn't anyone helped her? I recalled one of the psychiatrists saying that she had liked Mary a great deal, but was exasperated by her actions and words. She wanted to reach out and shake some sense into her. I understood that completely. Why hadn't Steve Letourneau, who knew her better than anyone, stepped in to help his wife before her meltdown led to disaster? Didn't friends, co-workers, her principal, see what I saw in that prison visiting room? And what of all this media coverage? Why had so many people felt the need to get on television to exploit her? Steve Letourneau turned up on a television tabloid show telling the world how he was getting along and how he hoped for a divorce from his infamous wife sooner rather than later. His flight attendant girlfriend, Kelly Whalen, was pregnant with his child. The idea that Steve felt compelled to be heard bothered Mary Kay, and she told me so. It was her story, not his, that was of worldwide interest. His hawking of family photos and comments about her love for Vili was detrimental to the healing Stephen, Mary Claire, Nicholas, and Jacqueline so desperately needed. What benefit can there be for the children in his selling the story, the lies? For the sole purpose of making money? She asked. When the subject of old friends came up, Mary Kay tried to dismiss those outside of her tight circle as people who didn't really know her. Michelle Jarvis went from close friend to outsider when the Californian cried her eyes out on TV's Lisa when the show featured the contents of the French book. Michelle thought Mary Kay was sick and said so. For her part, Michelle told friends that she still loved Mary Kay and hoped that one day she'd be able to rise above the travesty she'd made of her life by getting treatment. Not a day passes that I don't think of her and pray for her. I don't want her rationalizations ringing in my ears, my heart wanting to believe them while my brain tells me precisely what they really are, she said. Of course, close friends and the Letourneau children have been devastated by what happened in the wake of what happened between Mary Kay and Vili. There were enough tears to fill Puget Sound. Students, teachers, neighbors, friends, all had been left heartbroken. In time, most know, the impact will fade and soften for some. But for some, the legacy of the story will endure. Danelle Johnson's daughter became pregnant at 14. She wasn't the only girl in Mrs. Letourneau's class that had ended up like that. When my daughter told me she was pregnant by a man older than 18, though I'm not sure how much older, she said her pregnancy was just like Mrs. Letourneau's with Vili. It was love. The age difference, the whole Romeo and Juliet thing, some lesson she learned in that 6th grade class. The best true crime books are built on a solid foundation of original research. I always measure the quality of a book in this genre by the information that the author has unearthed. Who wants a rehash of what is already in the public domain? I want to know more. Accomplishing that is not always easy. In fact, in these days of tabloid and checkbook journalism, it has become increasingly difficult. Money is now in the mix. Just as a reporter will not pay for information, paying could induce sources into creating false information or even exaggerating legitimate information in order to make the buyer feel as though he is getting his money's worth. I do not offer money for interviews. In this case, more than any I have tackled, the request for cash for information was played out with numbing regularity. Directly or indirectly, it was suggested to me that cash would lead to interviews. Those with hands held outward included everyone from a police officer to friends and associates of Mary Letourneau. One individual asked for $70,000. At no time during my phone conversations and visits did Mary Letourneau request remuneration. Given such a climate, it must be stated here that I could not have overcome all of the obstacles and all of the closed doors without the talents of crime writer and researcher Gary Boynton. Not only did Gary hang in there with the dogged determination of a private eye, he did so with a polite and professional attitude about which several sources, friendly and hostile, remarked, "Thanks, Gary." As always, I appreciated the support of my literary agent, Susan Reihofer of Black Ink, New York, editor Charles Spicer and his assistant Dorsey Mills of St. Martin's Press, New York, and my faithful advance readers, June Wolfe and Tina Marie Schwichtenberg. Special appreciation goes to Katherine Beck, who encouraged me when it looked as if the story would be impossible to crack. Finally, I was not able to secure interviews with Steve Letourneau, Patricia Maley, Vili Fualaau, Suna Fualaau, Sharon Hume, or the Letourneau children for this book, though I made efforts to do so. I spoke to Robert Huff just as this book was being prepared for printing. Gregg Olsen, Spring 1999. Email greggolsen@msn.com. Update 2004. Mary Kay Letourneau, now 42, will be released from prison this summer. She'll leave the Washington Correction Center for Women in Purdy, Washington, as the most famous and reviled inmate in the institution's history. Never have the likes of a media star roamed the halls as has inmate number 769014. There have been other teacher rapists, but none have achieved Letourneau's notoriety. None have been the subject of countless TV shows, a USA Network movie, books, mine and the French book, which never saw an English incarnation, magazine covers, and a million hours of water-cooler chatter. Among the Letourneau news were stories about the former teacher's disregard of prison rules, a couple of stretches in solitary, rumors of a lesbian lover, which Letourneau denies, the betrayal by a former cellmate who was going to write her own book about Letourneau's life behind bars. And late last year, the local newspaper carried a picture of Letourneau and her daughter on the front page, a prison-sponsored back-to-school event for moms and their kids. What Letourneau faces with her freedom is both certain and unsure. There is no doubt that her infamy will continue. Globe magazine published an article in January 2004 indicating that she intends to pose nude for Playboy. The story is old and probably ridiculous, but shows the interest in Letourneau remains strong. The flames are being fanned, that much you can count on. Letourneau's future with Vili Fualaau and her children is less clear. Suna and Vili filed a $20 million suit against the Highline School District and the Des Moines Police Department for failing to stop the relationship from taking its shocking and sad turn. The jury didn't agree with the plaintiffs, who left a King County courtroom in May 2002 without a penny. The jury saw the plaintiffs as money-hungry and already overcompensated for their roles in the drama through the tabloids. The fact that Suna and Vili saw little of the money from the movie, the French book, the other collateral materials of the story had little bearing. It was as if the jury thought the Fualaus had their chance and they, well, blew it. There was no appeal. I met Suna at the trial. Perhaps with the exception of all of the children, I feel sorriest for her. She was roughed up on the stand and made out to be the worst mother on the planet, a low-rent Joan Crawford. Just walk in her shoes. I think she did the best she could, and she did so with dignity and even a little grace. What probably would have been best would have been for the family to resolve the situation without police. The question that remains is, what was in the best interest of the children? Audrey, almost 7, and Alexis, the family's preferred name for Georgia, now 4. There is another story, another tragedy that's a part of the saga of Mary and Steve Letourneau. Last year, all attempts at reconciliation between Steve and his second wife, Kelly, failed. Broken-hearted and bankrupt by the divorce, Kelly moved with their tow-headed 4-year-old daughter, Gabrielle, to the Seattle area, while Steve stayed in Alaska with the 4 older children, and his new love, another woman. Those closest to Kelly, Waylon Letourneau, told the flight attendant that the failure of the marriage was inevitable, and she'd be better off without Steve and all the drama that had enveloped his life. Right now, she can't see that. But in time, she just might. What reportedly hurts her most is the fact that she's been cut off from seeing Stephen, now 19, Mary Claire, 16, Jackie, 12, and Nick, 10. For the tumultuous 7 years that their mother had been ripped from their lives, Kelly tried to play that difficult and frequently thankless role of stepmother. But hers was a more complicated situation than most, by far. She was married to a man who chose to put tabloid money ahead of privacy. She was in the unenviable position of helping to raise children whose mother was on the front page of the Globe and on TV at seemingly every turn. In the end, when the kids had nothing to say to their mother, it was Kelly who'd sit down every other week and send Mary an update note on each of her 4 children. It was Kelly who filled the Mary box, Letourneau's old homework box from Shorewood, with schoolwork from the kids. She addressed the envelopes, mailed the packages, made sure the kids were there to take the calls. It was Kelly who asked local grocers to pull tabloids from view. Kelly was the one who called the school and read them the riot act when a teacher played the All-American Girl TV movie for the class as a current event lesson. "I never expected I'd be their mother," she told a friend not long after her breakup with Steve. "But I did expect that I could help them in some way. They needed stability after what they'd gone through. No one can know what it was like for them to live with their mother being Mary Kay Letourneau. Don't get me wrong, they love her. They want to be with her. But those kids went through hell because of that love. Mary's lucky to have them. I was lucky to share them with her, even for a short time." I haven't heard from Mary since she misdialed my phone number 2 years ago. I hear from time to time how she's doing in prison. Most of the principals have scattered to the winds. Secret Squirrel has moved out of state. John Schmitz died. Several Shorewood teachers have been reassigned to new schools. Bob Huff has fallen off the radar completely. Mary's groupies have retreated somewhat. The www.marykayLetourneau.com site hasn't been updated in eons. Tony Hollick no longer calls from England to see what he can do to free the woman of his dreams. Others carry on as they always have. KIRO reporter Karen O'Leary continues to be the best in the business, digging deeper and bringing more real news into Seattle homes than just about anyone. Lawyer David Gerke finds his way into the news every now and then, though not with the frequency of those heady days of Oprah and Dateline. My daughter, a college student now, ran into a boy from Letourneau's infamous 6th grade class on campus at Washington State University. The young man was put off by the Mary Vili saga, but still adored his teacher. "Ms. Letourneau was the best teacher I ever had," he said. Even though she's relished every bit of the spotlight, that's what Letourneau would want her supporters and detractors to know more than anything. Gregg Olsen, Olalla, Washington, February 2004. For more on the Letourneau case, visit the author's website, www.greggolsen.com.
Mary Kay Letourneau, who received national infamy after raping her student and then later marrying him, has died of cancer at age 58. We have now learned that Vili Fualaau, the student who she later married, was by her side when she passed. Our Kayla Lafferty spoke with her lawyer and has the story.
I did something that I had no right to do.
Mary Kay Letourneau became an international household name in the late 90s when she pleaded guilty to raping her 12-year-old Shorewood Elementary School student, Vili Fualaau. David Gerke was Letourneau's attorney.
We were friends before, not good friends, but once she pled guilty, she was automatically confined until the end of whatever her sentence was. So I visited her a lot during the 6 months.
Letourneau gave birth to Fualaau's child while in jail. The two were married in 2005, just after Letourneau was released from prison. They spent over a decade together and had 2 children.
What she did was illegal. She committed a crime. And that's kind of become what the focus is online right now. A lot of people posting about, she raped a child. So what is your response to that?
I do believe it was a love story, and I tell everybody she needed to go to prison for it. She had the duty as an adult to be the adult, and she failed in that. But to label her a rapist, a pedophile, or things like that, I will argue against for a long time.
Fualaau and Letourneau separated in 2017, but Gerke says Fualaau was by her side the day she died.
Vili came back when he got the news and when she got really bad, and but the last 2 months was with her 24/7, taking care of her. They were still in love.
In Des Moines, Kayla Lafferty, King 5 News.
Meanwhile, Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best reacted to Letourneau's death on Twitter late last night, then later deleted her tweet. The tweet yesterday, the chief replying to the New York Times about the tweet about Letourneau, which included her rape charge, and Best wrote, "Sad about this, R.I.P." We reached out to Chief Carmen Best for a comment, and a spokesperson told us that the chief in no way supports what Mary Kay Letourneau did, but she tweeted the message because she is sad for her family's loss. She later deleted it because she did not want anyone to misunderstand her intention.
Mary Kay, she's got it bad. Things no one understands. You can't keep a good man down. You can't stop the moves around. You can't close your lonely eyes. Though he's way too young to drive, but he's old enough to please you. Love me nuts and daisies, Mary Kay. Spin the bottle crazy, Mary Kay. Little John Doe's got it bad. When he first walked in her class, he never had a crush like this, except for Susie's mother. She wasn't like the other girls in the tried and silly world. He never seen someone so beautiful. Second base and better, Mary Kay. In a soft blue sweater, Mary Kay. Mary Kay. Deeper and deeper under the bleachers, a teacher. Mary Kay was on the run with the father of a son. She didn't know she was a star as they were steaming up the car. Now in your orange jailbird suit, I wish the best for you. You were in my heart and living room. 7 years and counting, Mary Kay. All the inmates wanting, Mary Kay. Love me nuts and daisies, spin the bottle crazy. Love can be amazing, Mary Kay.
Katrina 20. Katrina 20. Katherine Massey Book Club, August 29. Certainly important. Hey, Katherine Massey Book Club, we did spend quite a bit of time on Katrina as well. Any hoodles, that is it. Gregg Olsen, racist suspect. If loving you is wrong. Now, we read the whole book. We should know a lot more about Mary Kay now than when we started. So, same question that I started with. White teacher, non-white female. We did not hear the word racism in this book at all. Someone comes to you and says, hey, Mary Kay Letourneau, do you know about that case? Does this have anything to do with racism? You're going to get a thumbnail. Someone says you got 5 sentences to tell me about Mary Kay Letourneau, should racism be in those 5 sentences? Does racism have anything to do at all with what we just learned about Vili, man-child, and Mary Kay? The number 720-716-7300. The code 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. You hear Jill Sabule, young lady doing the song. She said, all the inmates wanting Mary Kay. What is going on? What is going on? They make you heard any songs like that for Diddy, Bill Cosby? Only one Mary Kay. Number again, 720-716-7300. Decode 564943 pound. Press star 61 if you would like to participate. Let's see. Folks who dialed in with a hand up. Let's see. Proceed. Whoops. Messing around. All right. Folks who dialed in with a hand up, proceed.
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is doing the best they can. I just got a couple of things with the closing of the book. Glad we closed it. Yep, and I'll stick by the big three, Gus. Yes, this is it's about racism. It's again, I keep stressing this because I just think this is disgraceful how they just kept them from getting any money. Not say that, let's get money off of this, but I mean, people were making money off of this. Why couldn't the Fualaus get, some of that money that would have helped their family? With them always saying that Mary is a teenager and this teenage love, and it's, they kept saying love like it was just a regular man-woman relationship. And I just think that was horrible, the way they just kept doing it. Like they framing it as it's a good relationship that, they're just, just having problems or something. I mean, a 12-year-old? And Miss Fualaau, I wish she could have wrote a book, again, another, trying to get money for the family. Write a book, Miss Fualaau, about what signs to look for if your child might be getting raped by their teacher at school. Like, will they, how do they act? How was they reacting? Was anything different? Just throwing that out there. But yeah, I think it is about racism. Billy is a non-white. He was a non-white child, and it was sad the way he went there, and he was with her at the end and taking care of her, dumping her bedpans, and who knows what else. I'll mute my line.
She's sticking to it. Say racism. Vili was a non-white male and hanging in with her all the way to the end, which yeah. Disgusting. That would be high on the list here. If I could take one moment before we nab some of our other callers, just 1 second. This is our ode to Seattle in reading all of this. And they did toss in Mary Kay and how she had homies out in Mercer Island, how far away that was from old gangland White Center. Now, I don't have no homies in Mercer Island, but I have been to Mercer Island briefly. Mercer Island, the suburbs of Seattle, definitely not like White Center. You ain't gonna have no Neely Fualaau ain't going out to Mercer Island to flip no pies. Like, beat it. Mercer Island, 1.36% black. Not 2%, not 1.5%, 1.36% Negro in Mercer Island. I have been to Mercer Island, but I don't know no Negras who live in Mercer Island, and I didn't stay long. The few times that I have been in Mercer, you better be looking at it. We got to get out of here. Woo! Let me tell you, because I was reminded, I think Bill Russell, the great Bill Russell, who we also read about, Katherine Massey Book Club, Louisiana, 2 times, and the great Seattle, Bill Russell owned property in Mercer Island. That 1.36%, that's pretty much all Bill Russell at one point. This, written just after Mr. Russell passed a few years back, Mr. Russell himself wrote before he passed, he said, "Yet another black man, George Floyd, has been added to the list of the thousands of black people killed by police brutality, yet another life stolen by a country broken by prejudice and bigotry. When I was a kid, I learned to run away from the police because they'd arrest you, kick you, or kill you if you were black. I remember my brother Charlie started a little shoe shining business. He was 12 years old and lots of kids shined shoes for money at the time. The police arrested Charlie, I think for not having a peddler's license, and I was struck by the unfairness of it. The white boys were never arrested for shining shoes, but the black boys were. My brother had a record because of it, and that record could be used later to show that he was a troublemaker, to excuse the behavior of a police officer who chose to abuse his or her authority. As an adult, the police would follow me around Boston, Reading, which we heard about last week. That's where she said, Mary Kay said, man, we going all the way up to Reading, Washington, see if we can get the outfit for Aubrey's christening. We got to spend $8,000. Do you have gas money? We got to spend $8,000 to get the outfit for the christening in Reading. Bill Russell say the police would follow me around Boston, Reading, Mercer Island. It's only 1.3% Negro in Mercer Island, Bill Russell. What did you expect, Bill Russell? Because I remember I heard stories about this, him being chased around murder. We don't have no 7-foot Negras in Mercer Island, Bill Russell, who coached the Seattle Supersonics. I think that's why he had the house in Mercer Island. I think some of the other Sonic Negras had property in Mercer Island. It was the same thing. Boy, you better wear that jersey as soon as you don't take no shower. Wear your jersey, Negro, so we go, oh, that's Bill Russell. Come on in, Bill. Come on in. You didn't bring no friends and cousins, because we don't. 1.36, Bill. We didn't really want you out here, Bill, but I mean, you're going to coach the team. So. Vili ain't welcome in Mercer Island, neither. Sorry, I had to get that in, Seattle. Other folks who dialed in, if you have commentary to share, proceed.
Greetings, Mr. Renegade. This is Fred Douglas. So I remember last week one of the callers mentioned about the soft voice that was used when Mary Kay spoke. making it seem so gentle, or she's so surprised when people do things that might seem to be contrary to her interests. And I've noticed that also, but I tell you, listening to it after that commenter made that comment, it just grated on me even more this week. And I was wondering too, how often did Mary Kay rape Vili? It seemed like it was rather frequent. He told those stories, talked about when he was talking with Bob Huff and the other guy about the encounters, and they said that some of them might not be accurate. But she tells stories about, at least the second time before she was put back in prison, about them having sex in multiple places, even at her friend's house. So it seems like they had very frequent sexual encounters there, rape. There's mention this week about Steve having the burden of taking care of 4 kids, and that was one of the reasons why he took some of those interviews and whatnot. But, there's a Samoan lady, Vili Fualaau, who's taking care of 6 children. When she tries to do that, she gets no compassion. I also kind of wondered about the interaction with Bob Huff and Vili. He was supposed to be some sort of father figure to him, and it did not seem like it benefited him very much. I mean, considering how things turned out for Vili. I mean, it doesn't seem like there was really any interest apart from securing these various deals for movies or interviews or things like that. Well, not a movie, but the interviews and and that the French book. That was about it. Give me just one second. I thought it was interesting too. They brought up the fridge for Mary Kay's breast milk. And I was wondering, what did they do for other mothers? Were they allowed to pump breast milk? Was there a freezer for them, or were they denied the ability to do that? One of the themes on the cows has been about how non-white black mothers have faced difficulty or even discouraged from breastfeeding. I thought it interesting too, the jealousy that Mary Kay has expressed during the book, throughout the book, but particularly this week. When Vili was supposed to have gone to Paris and with Bob Huff's teenage daughter. There's mention this week of her saying, the only kids you're having are mine. I'll give you 18 if that's what you want, but your babies are mine. And then threatening to castrate him if he looked at somebody else. I thought one of the things, too, that it was one of the few accurate depictions of Vili. There was one of the sentences, the problem was that Vili was still a boy, unable to make adult decisions for himself. And it was the first time it was actually expressed that way, an accurate depiction of who he actually is. And then I was thinking, too, you talked about the description of, somebody asked you about whether this was a racist incident. And I was thinking about this, and, and I guess my response is Mary Kay Letourneau thoroughly manipulated, dominated a non-white boy and raped him apparently multiple times. She presents their relationship as love when it is domination. She offers a distorted picture of Vili as a strong, masculine, manly man who pursued her. And, to top it off, she threatens to castrate him and says his children are hers if he even attempts to look at somebody else. She wanted to make money off of the situation, yet when the poor family of Vili attempts to do the same, she's angered by that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Much obliged. Great point about so many other people made lots and lots and continue to make money off of this. And it seemed like lots of people were disgusted about the idea of what? The Fualaus getting a couple nickels. What? Oh my God! Who cares about that? It's repulsive. What? Dave Gerke, I'm sure, is still eating well because he's still in documentaries and things. So Karen O'Leary, same thing, prosecuting attorney for Seattle. Lots of blonde white women. Before I nab some of the other folks, the newspaper articles, they have some editorials that I thought were interesting during this time period. These are all from the Seattle Times. I'm just going to give some quick ones. These are people writing in, presumably a lot of white people because Seattle is kind of mostly white. Let's see. 1. Prison correct form of justice? Was a prison sentence the correct form of justice? We could have allowed the two simply to marry at 13. In time, the three could manage the mundane and the struggles to survive and get along that life also entails. Wasn't it Hillary Clinton that had it right? It takes a It takes a village to raise a child. Her students are left wondering. Her husband and 4 children, the new babe and new beau, and Mary Kay herself, Leanna Blunt, Seattle. And I'll give one more. Not capable of rehabilitation. Just 1 short month after her release, Mary Kay Letourneau has been re-arrested for her immoral behavior. For those of us disgusted by her lenient sentence and treatment options, this is just a victory indeed. This is a victory indeed. I am almost sure that Judge Linda Lau, non-white, must be seething for her decision to entrust Letourneau with her freedom. Now, unfortunately, the Letourneau family must once again face the humiliation of answering questions concerning Mary Kay's behavior and her young victim, that old nonsense again, who by all accounts believes that Mary Kay is his one and only love, again faces the stigma of having his life torn apart. Driving my children to school this morning, I heard one radio disc jockey liken this situation to a sort of weird Romeo and Juliet. Heard that in the text. I do not believe that I am alone in thinking that Letourneau is without a doubt one of the most conniving pedophiles to ever walk the streets. She groomed her victim, made him dependent on her, created a lifetime link by becoming pregnant, and twisted the sympathies of the court by playing the sobbing, remorseful coquette. Woo! It does not surprise me that police had been called to keep a close eye on her in the past weeks. What does surprise me is that the young man with whom she had her affair was not kept protected from her. I do hope he will someday be able to resume a safe, normal life, and I hope that his family is able to overcome the trauma that they have also been through. I cannot imagine their distress as they must now raise Letourneau's daughter, and I pray that her actions will deny her the opportunity to regain custody of the child. I do believe that Letourneau is capable of leading a normal life behind bars with others of her kind. Oh, jeez. And I think this should serve as testament that sex offenders are not capable of rehabilitation no matter what they profess. Jesus! Carol G. Brister Renton. That's not quite Seattle. That's like, depending on traffic, like 15 miles south of Seattle. That's kind of heading towards White Center Way. Wow. I don't know what to say. Like, that's why you don't live in Seattle. Other folks who dialed in with a hand up, *61, proceed. Jesus, called her a pedophile and everything, like WTH. Other folks, proceed.
Hello? You can go ahead, ma'am.
Right on. Lauren is yielding. Z's mommy.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren. I just had two comments. I thought it was interesting. I think Mary at some point describes Vili as a chameleon who wants to be liked. So I think that's why she was saying he'll say whatever when he's around certain people, and that's why he kind of gave these, I guess, braggadocious reenactments of their sexual experiences or his sexual experiences. I just thought that was really interesting because then in another statement she says that he dominates her and is so masculine. And I feel like those two traits kind of contradict what she said earlier. Like, to me, describing someone as a chameleon who wants to be liked and who acts in a certain manner depending on the people they're around, that to me sounds like someone who's a child, who's an impressionable child, versus someone who's an old soul, which she likes to say often, or someone who would dominate her. And then the other interesting thing was the clip from the beginning. I think at one point they state that her friends were sending notes or letters, I think, from Vili to her and maybe vice versa. And I just thought that was interesting because it's like, it is aiding and abetting, I think. It is actively committing a crime. And I just think of like all of the black people, specifically black males, who are like in prison for life for being in the same car as someone who committed a murder or who committed a crime. So I just thought that was really interesting that they were actively committing a crime and even admitted it, and there was no investigation into how were they able to communicate, and were there other people involved that were helping Vili and Mary communicate while she was in prison. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Much obliged, Z's mommy. I think we heard like a lot of that. Like it was mentioned in the book, the aiding and abetting. Pardon. Even Gregg Olsen in the book, he talked about how Mary Kay, she snuck in, I think, one of the pals' houses to have sexual intercourse with Vili. It would be hard for me to believe that this was done where the homeowner had no idea about this. It seems like there was tons of this, them getting him a pager and a phone and all this old nonsense. Like, come on. Like that, the same, last week, they go to visit her in prison, and they're not supposed to take pictures. They go over the, regulations for visiting the prison. First thing they do, you got your camera, get the selfie ready, click, 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 click. And then the guards come like, wait a minute, we gonna pee up. They get in the car and drive out like, whoa, what is going on here? I said that last week. If that had been me, Leroy, Diddy, it might have been shots fired. Like, come on, it wouldn't have just been, we gonna stop you and, now you can't come back and visit. That's gonna be some in fact, whatever Negro we came to visit, now you going to solitary. You gonna have your friends come and act a fool like that, like get you too. Strip search, yeah, because now we gonna think y'all did something, got to strip search you, and now you gonna be in solitary for a month. White defiance. Through and through. We heard that the whole time reading this book. You get, there were so many. That was one of the reasons we were reading this, because like so much of this stuff I would have easy access to because we're in Seattle. Letourneau case draws groupies, sympathizers. Woman who raped teen has a fan club that aids and abets. I'm not going to read the full thing so we can get to Lauren, other folks. It just says quickly, a British physicist, an Episcopal priest, a struggling writer, These are some of the groupies who began orbiting the world of Mary Kay Letourneau as news spread via newspapers, magazine, television, and internet of her arrest and conviction for raping her former grade school student. The 36-year-old Letourneau's tale attracted sympathizers, followers, and voyeurs around the world. Their presence caused Letourneau's attorney to send a letter warning that their meddling could land her back behind bars. The phenomenon of latching on to a notorious or heroic figure is familiar to psychiatrists and social scientists. The more sensational and bizarre the story, the more likely the public will respond personally, said Howard Zanona, a forensic psychiatrist at Yale. And then I wanted to see if they have any more specific details. Okay. Both the hero and the murderer received numerous marriage proposals from women they had never met. Letourneau, who is regarded as a charismatic and attractive by her admirers, is similarly pursued. Those close to her say at first followers started calling and writing to Letourneau in jail when she was released in January under terms of suspended sentence that prohibited her from seeing the boy. Their entreaties included medical, financial, and spiritual advice as well as romantic overtures. I'm familiar with a group of Mary's friends that was solid, said Julie Moore, an evaluating psychiatrist who conducted 6 hours of interviews with Letourneau in October, but others, whom Moore dubbed the groupie group, reinforced Letourneau's belief that she was involved in a tragic romance with her former student. Among this bunch were people who advised Letourneau to take her money out of the bank and flee to a foreign country where she could legally marry the boy. Letourneau, who is serving a 7.5-year sentence for rape, told Oprah Winfrey during an interview broadcast Wednesday that she loves the boy and still hopes to marry him, but she denied their plan to flee together. I'll stop there just because we heard in the book, and they have newspaper articles where I think they had like $6,000 cash, passport, all of this material that would clearly suggest you all plan to be on the run. You're not supposed to be with him anyway, so what are you doing? What's all this for? Mary Kay and the groupies, none of them probably. Imagine if this had been Diddy. Some of his cousins. They're going to come and sneak him some goodies. Get him a cell phone. Like, come on. Let's see. Other folks, Lauren should be with us as well. Thank you for your patience.
No problem, sir. Can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in today's reading, it said among the notes Steve Letourneau turned over to King County Detective Pat Maley was a list of attributes that Mary Kay had once written about herself. Strong, smart, passion in life, beautiful, look young, loving, faithful, sunsets, a family, giver, sunny days, kissing, and lots of sex love. I don't think I've ever seen that term before, sex love. But she might have meant sex every time she used the term love to refer to what she was doing to Vili. When the author goes to see her in prison, she has on a ring, and he says, I didn't know you could wear jewelry here. She says, only a wedding band. Then you're married to Vili, I asked. Yes, and it is blessed. I didn't want to bring up the fact that she was already married to Steve, and marrying Vili was another crime. All right, that's super interesting. Somebody else already brought up the use of the terms dominated and master, dominated, all that. So I guess I don't really need to speak about that. But Vili wasn't doing those things to Mary Kay. She was doing those things to him. The author wrote, and what of all this media coverage, why had so many people felt the need to get on television to exploit her? So Gregg Olsen wrote a book. I mean, that takes much more time and energy. I don't know how much money he made from it. I can't really say. Let me see. So in the part, like after the book, the update, the 2004 update, the author said, I met Suna at the trial. Perhaps with the exception of all the children, I feel sorriest for her. She was roughed up on the stand and made out to be the worst mother on the planet. A low-rent Joan Crawford, just walking her shoes. I think she did the best she could, and she did so with dignity, Jim Jones, and even a little grace. What probably would have been best would have been for the family to resolve the situation without the police. What does that look like? How do you resolve the problem of a child raping adult without the police? Like, what exactly do you do? That's a serious question, not a rhetorical one. And also, he just called her a low-rent Joan Crawford. Like, that's at least the second time he's engaged in name-calling when it comes to Suna Fualaau. Then he said, I haven't heard from Mary since she misdialed my phone number 2 years ago. I hear from time to time how she's doing in prison. Now, I don't know how you misdial a phone number from prison. It's not like you're going through your contacts list and just swipe the wrong number. Or do you? I don't know. Maybe she had a cell phone in there. I'm not sure. Earlier, when you were talking about, just a couple of sentences, what would you write? If I summarized it in a few sentences, I think Mary Kay Letourneau was a child-raping, suspected racist. She chose a vulnerable 12-year-old and further victimized him. Those sexual acts were acts of maximum racist aggression, and she knew it. That's all I have for now. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
That is what Fuller said. Maximum racist aggression. And they like picking non-white people because we are in a childlike state. That is exactly what Fuller said, and exactly about this case with Mary Kay Letourneau. Exactly. I thought the same thing when Mr. Olsen, when he said, I'm assuming this is like his personal view because this is the afterward and all that and update and, but he's saying he personally thinks that they should have, like the families, they should have just resolved this without the police. I said the exact same thing. Like, what does that look like and at what point? So when they find out about this, after the first pregnancy, after the second pregnancy, if they resolve it, and then she gets pregnant, what happens then? If they resolve it, she gets pregnant the second time, what happens then? Gregg Olsen, you are at minimum a racist suspect because there's no way in the world you would have come out of your mouth and said something like that if it had been Diddy, Al Sharpton, and 12-year-old Mary Kay, and Diddy got her pregnant from the freak-offs. Ain't no way in the galaxy you would come out your mouth. Well, I think Diddy and them, they could just, he could have cut her a check, what's that? I mean, come on. Do we really need to get the police involved in the freak-offs? Really? Have you come on. And you see, he didn't elaborate. He didn't give us no details. Like, so would they pay money because they were already in foreclosure? They would have no nickels to help out. What would that look like? Give us an example of where that even happened, where an adult, a mid-30-year-old, raped a 12-year-old, and the families just handled this privately. Give us an example. Does anybody know one? Can you think of a time where, we don't get the police involved in no silliness like that. We'll sit down, we'll hash it out, and we'll come to an agreement. It's fine. Like, do you know of such a case? Because I do not. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. One of the more racist things I've heard of in the last hour.
Gus, can I say something to that?
Yes, ma'am.
You know how they should have handled it privately? The Fualaau should have went over to Mary Kay's house and put a foot in her ASS, and that's how it should have been handled privately.
Oh, now, wait a minute now. We not going to have no dark-skinned Samoan white center thugs, foul-mouthed hooligans who got their pants hanging. You not going to come over here and think you going to put a baseball bat on blonde, all-American, white, blonde, attractive Mary? Are you? They put you under the now. So okay, that's Act 1. The enforcement officers come up, so they say, "Oh, really? The blonde, beautiful white teacher was raping gangbanger thug Vili? Really? Really? You're going to jail." You're going to jail. You'll be the one that will be Captain that don't take no pictures when you come to do your visitation, and they won't treat us like Mary Kay's no counts. That's our caller 3215. You do realize that it's not going to be no insanity. It's not going to be you did the right thing. No, you're going to jail, and it's going to be what? Raped Mary Kay? What? Because the police never got involved, so it's going to be, now you're lying to you. If anything, your no-count, gang-banging, illiterate thug son, he raped Mary Kay and was lusting after her. If anything, that's what it's going to be. You know that, yes?
It's fine. That's fine. We're prepared to go to jail. At least one family member. Somebody should have did it. I'm sorry. But they're victims, though. The Fualaau, it wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault.
Oh, she said that V word against them. Oh, talk to victims. Really want no victim. Yes, ma'am. Much obliged. We still didn't. I still don't know of no example. I guess is that what he meant? You think, Mr. Olsen, the families handling amongst themselves is you go get the baseball bat and you wear her head out? Is that what he meant? But the families handling by themselves, because he didn't give us no details. And again, I'm saying I don't know. Oh, I can't think of some times where that has happened. Where some child molester went and did that, and the parent found out, and they did go. Sometimes they arrest these folks, sometimes they don't. Who do the beating, I mean. Anywho, *61 if other folks have observations as we wrap up Mary Kay Letourneau. Folks who wrote in, email number 1, greetings Gus, listeners, callers. Can't say I enjoyed the text, but I think it was a constructive read. If nothing else, I think it will improve my ability to analyze similar situations in the future and come to my own conclusions whether racism, white supremacy is involved, and I will be less inclined to be swayed by white media. I certainly did not see the Mary Kay Vili as child rape, you're not supposed to, or as an act of racism, white supremacy. I guess none of us did. When it was first publicized in the media. Chapter 78. Mary Kay needs the media more than the media needs Mary Kay. James Kent said later, I suspect they need each other equally. They sold a lot of papers behind Mary Kay. Facts. 2. Or Chapter 79. A funny thing happened to Mary Kay Letourneau on the way to prison. She had become the center of a freak show. Her whole life seems like a freak show. Absolutely. 2. You know how it goes, Bob Huff said later of the locker room banter, but I did learn later that Vili did make up some stories. Of course, you can't believe everything he says. He's an abused child. This statement seems disingenuous. 3. Even if inaccurate, the book made headlines. The teen wrote of waiting to have sex with her and betting a friend. They had disregarded the law and continued to see each other. He drove her to the hospital, though at 13 he didn't have a license. We heard a lot of that in the book, I think. I found this section very disturbing. Mary Kay is just a horrible person, even if not all the stories are true. Facts, facts, facts. And a lot of this stuff, I think it totally is true. Him driving her to the hospital. They said that the teacher said they saw his brother driving her car. So why would I think she wouldn't have him driving? They're hanging out, going to 7-Eleven, going to the movies, going getting Mad Dog. Why would I think that? All of that sounds very, very believable. Chapter 80. King County Prosecutor Norm Maling said, "It is instead a question of justice. 7.5 years is a substantial punishment for the conduct involved." Tabloid even reported that Vili had several flings with neighborhood girls. Vili was booted out of school for openly smoking pot on school grounds, a self-inflicted gunshot. Vili's brother Perry had been shot. Nothing about this book suggests justice is being produced. Nothing. I mean, man. 2. The article quoted Bob Huff as saying Mary Kay had threatened to say Vili had raped her if he didn't do the right thing and marry her. She wants her way no matter what happens. Mary Kay accused Audrey and Georgia's grandmother of stealing our babies and not caring enough about Vili. "The only kids you're having are mine. I'll give you 18 if that's what you want, but your babies are mine." She wrote how she threatened automatic castration if he ever looked at another girl. This section is very revealing of who Mary Kay really was, and I think highlights the racism, white supremacy. Woo! Manipulative, controlling, vindictive, not the sweet teenager she tried to portray. And I mean, dang. Remember our caller, Mr. Douglas, I said last week, because they were on talk radio that I played last week, they said, "Vili, is that the Negro? He's part black, mulatto, something, niggerish, something." That was how they started. I said, "Whoa, is Vili black?" And he said, "I don't know, Gus. If Vili, if he got a bald head, you cut his hair, look like my cousin Leroy, he'd be black." I said, "Oh no, oh no." Man, that is the classic Negro male. You gonna do right, I'm gonna chop it off. You gonna do, I'm gonna chop it off. Automatic castration. Like what? And the double whammy of it, not just the castration. You gonna do what I say. Or I just said. She got the audacity, "I'm going to go over here and beat up old Mary Kay." And I said, all they're going to do is say that you lied on a pretty, blonde, all-American white woman. You lied, and if anything, your no-count gang-banging child raped her. I just said that, and she then said, "You going to do right, or I'm going to tell her, he raped me. He raped me." Vili would have been in prison so fast, and they are going to be charging you as an adult. You's a man. Ain't gonna be no man, boy, and boy that you's a man, and you raped that white girl. You raped that white girl. Going to prison. Ain't gonna have no visitors. You ain't have no fan club. You ain't got no groupies. Woo! Man, I thought that was, I had to switch my highlight color for that one. Next, during the tumultuous last 2 years, Steve and Mary Kay Letourneau's marriage, a total of 4 children were born of their extramarital relationships. With all the chaos involving children in this situation, I don't recall any mention in the text of any child protective services involvement. Is that because Steve and Mary Kay are white? Facts, 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 facts. I think someone had asked about that before. Why didn't she lose access to her children? Like termination of parental rights, deuces. It ain't going to be no calling and you going down to the airport and sneaking the information so you would get out of here, you child raping criminal, pedophile. Beat it. Dorothy Roberts killing the black body. She said that exactly. We are coming to criminalize and come after black. If this had been Lakeisha, oh my God, she wouldn't have had no groupies. She wouldn't have had no website. She wouldn't have had no book. They would have terminated her rights, and it wouldn't have been the caller who said, dang, do all the prisoners, do they get to express milk in prison? Hell no. Dorothy Roberts killing the black body. Are you serious? And you raped a child to get much less if that had been here, so you raped a white child? Lakeisha? Any child? Please. Please. Next, Vili. Oh, wait a minute, I ran too far. Yes, she was more this teenager in a woman's body. Was a friend, a teacher, a mother, a felon. To some, she was also a predator, a child rapist. Teenager in a woman's body? Are you kidding me? And then they'll come and say Vili is a man in a child. What kind of racist lunacy? And it's always they infantilize white people so that they are naive, not accountable for their racist criminal conduct. What do you mean? This is a 36-year-old white woman with 4 children who presumably graduated from some sort of education school. They don't just, I don't know. Do you just let any white person walk in off the street and teach? What do you mean, a teenager? The lunacy and racism of it all. Woo! Vili, on the other hand, is still trying to figure out who he is and how he fits into the world. His body has morphed from a boy's to a young man's since he first kissed his 6th grade teacher. Mustache has grown from a shaky C to a solid B. I don't know what that means. Attends school sporadically, and girls flock to him in greater numbers. Do you think he attends school sporadically because he was raped by a teacher from school? I'm being ignorant. I'm being ignorant. Sorry. We'll get to it. Sporadic. Father of 2. He's a teenager trapped in a grown man's responsibility. And of course, he ain't no victim. There you go. That's see, get away from all that simple-minded talk. Not a victim. Next, the lawyer felt sorriest for the Fualaus. It's like people who win the lottery and are penniless the next year. Even when I heard that, I said, wait a minute. What was the lottery? At what point did they win the lottery here, the Fualaus? At what point? When Mary Kay got pregnant the first time? When she got pregnant the second time? When he got to go to France? When did they hit the lottery? I totally missed the part. She quit the job at the pie factory. I know I messed up the audio last week, but I mean, really, we didn't miss that. It was the tidbit about Oprah Winfrey. Went back, read that in the archives. I didn't see nothing about oh yeah, they came up, quit the job at the pie factory and everything, got millions of dollars. Ain't no more stealing fila jackets, begging for shoes. Them days is over. I didn't hear nothing about that. What lottery did they hit in all of this? They'd have to explain that with the metaphor. Saying that for years. And are penniless. And even with that metaphor, it suggests they did something financially irresponsible or mismanaged their money. When? What did they, if anything, they got even more? Because I thought, so we got these 2, unless that's the lottery, we got 2 half-white children. If that's the lottery, just say that. We got less melanated children. Maybe they'll do better in life. Say that. If that's not what it is, I have no idea. Where is the win for the Fualaau? Any of them at any point. They didn't even get free shoes, man. Like, Jesus, come on. They could have got them a Nordstrom gift card, you know, go hook the family up, at least look cute when you go to do these interviews, go to France so you don't look like no ragamuffin. I didn't even hear that. Get the baby need diapers. Hey, did y'all even hear that? All this foolishness about expressing milk. Babies need diapers. If you thought Vili was hurting for shoes and a winter jacket, did anybody even say we're going to hook these babies up with some clothes? All these lame white groupies. We're going to hook these babies up with some clothes. We know you don't have the income of one of the parents because she's in jail. We really groupies. What size shoes do your children wear, Vili? I didn't even hear that one time. Do you need diapers? Diapers are expensive. I don't even have children and I know that. I didn't hear one time these lame groupies. Your children need any books? Where was the lottery? I mean, come on. It is so disgusting. It is so man, can I clear my throat since they had that shooting in Minneapolis? White people do not care about children. See Mary Kay Letourneau and all of the, how are they groupies? That's the most disgraceful thing in the world. What is there to support and sympathize about Mary Kay Letourneau other than she's white? They'd have to give you don't even keep a clean classroom. You can't even put gas in your car. Like cute Halloween costumes. I said that's an important holiday for race soldiers, but whatever. Let's see. The Lord, so you felt sorry for the Fualaus. They won the lottery. That's what happened to Vili and his family, Bob have said. Pretty unbelievable, pretty sad story, worthy of great pity. That's one thing I'm going to say in reading this book, the racism of Gregg Olsen. He hates Steve Letourneau. Sick white brother. Oof, he comes up like super lame in this book, but I did not get the impression that he felt the sorriest for the Fualaus. I did not get that impression at all. Lauren pointed out, he's been name-calling Suna Fualaau throughout the entire book. He did not talk about Vili as though he was a victim at all. He portrayed Vili as a foul-mouthed, baggy britches wearing hooligan, man-child, whatever that is. Mary Kay came across as sympathy. He just said, that's my homie. She's so smart. And what did he say? She was the prettiest inmate in the prison. I don't even know how you came up with that, man. Mary Kay comes off as, oh, sad, poor thing. That whole line where she was so much. A teenager in a woman's body. A friend. A teacher. A mother. Are you serious? What kind of mom would... The mom that left the nails in the floor exposed where her white children lived? That's the mom we're talking about? The mom who had the sack of dirty diapers? A mountain in the house that she wouldn't even take out to the rubbish bin? Mom that's raping children. Let's fast forward through all that. A mom who uses her own white child as a part of the lie to fool her white husband. No, I'm not going out here to rape this brown boy. Me and the boys, we're just going out to the marina to look at the stars. Yeah. That's the person that gets portrayed sympathetically. Whew. Wow. Gregg Olsen, racist suspect. Let's see. Color Irie, also an educator. Commentary. Oh, and Katrina Day. Katrina Day. Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I was contemplating whether I would call today or not because so much happened today, good and bad. And, you know, my family did observe the memory of what happened 20 years ago today. But I felt like I should because I was just thinking about something that really offended me. It was just so gross how this woman kept putting on that she was basically predated by a minor, by a child. Like in the interviews, she was setting him up. Like you all met in when he was in second grade, and the phrasing of that was even off. But she's like, yeah, and tell him what you were doing, Billy. He's like, really? You're going to do that right now? And so she says for him, he's looking under her skirt or whatever. But if that's the case, that was your job to correct him. And then throughout the book, they kept inferencing that he was making demands of her. But in my mind, that was the opposite. She created an addiction as well, I suspect, because if he had never had those types of experiences before he met this adult woman, and she's basically raping him, and he's beginning to enjoy the abuse, you know what I'm saying? To say, well, I was fulfilling his needs. No, you created a demand, and his body being very hormonal is after a while adapting to this physical exchange, and now he has to deal somehow, some way with the mental, he has to figure out on his own, is this right, is this wrong, is this love, this is an adult, but this woman is saying she loves me. Society equates love to sex. His poor mom, battered by white supremacy, having to take care of all these children, trusting an adult female that probably posed to her that she was a mother. So I'll look out for your child like I would my own. And this woman didn't know that she was raping her son, possibly in front of her own son. You know what I'm saying? But that's what really stood out to me throughout the book, how she just kept making it out like a child could possibly demand sex from her repeatedly. And the fact that she got pregnant, I can't remember who said it, you mentioned it not too long ago, Dr. Welsing, that women can't force sex on a man. But here's the thing, with Mary Kay, she's an adult woman. She not only forced sex on Vili, but she forced a lifetime of interaction with him by carrying those children. And that is just some of the most diabolical, demonic behavior that I could ever hear about. And it's so purposeful, so purposeful. She couldn't have been, like you said so many times and other people, what were these kids' SAT scores or whatever the little scores is, the little assessments that they take midterm in the year? What is that? Because everything went away from her being an actual teacher and an actual wife and mother, and the glory that she received. And like y'all were talking about tonight, the family can't get any financial relief. There's one extra responsibility of a child with needs, and then another one later. They can't get nothing. And no, child protection, from my experience, they don't go after people who are employed by institutions. That's my experience, and it's also based on what happened in the book. But if Vili's mom had molested her son, or if she had allowed a regular person that wasn't a teacher most likely to be molested, and child protection would have got a hold of that information, she'd have been, what do you call that, indicated. She'd have lost her kids. They'd have been shipped to them two women in Washington or wherever they was, California, I can't remember. You get what I'm saying? It just really disturbs me, and I see a trend right now. I'm going to wrap it up. For some reason, victims of racism are going to school dressed inappropriately. And that's something I just found out about, and it really boggled my mind because this woman in particular I'm thinking about has to know that that's a predatory act to dress and show all of your contours in a middle school or high school setting. And how dare you? And somebody said, this is the last thing, yeah, they should have whooped on her. That's how I feel too. But at the same time, it would have backfired. Let's be real. So like Mr. Fuller said, unless you're willing to go the whole way with it and sit down for 10, 20 years for attempted murder or murder, it wouldn't have been worth doing. And I don't think Miss Fualaau was ready to do that, or anyone in her family, because if they wanted to whoop Mary Kay, they had ample opportunity to, and they didn't. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Sooner Fualaau definitely couldn't have, because she had, by the time you add Mary Kay's, with a deadbeat mom, race soldier Mary Kay, by the time you add her to throwaway children in there, she has 6 children. So, yeah, she's automatically disqualified from, she can't go do, and, I'm going to whoop on, get locked up, and then for sure we're going to take all 6 of your children away too, and you're going to jail? Nah. She sounded exactly, talking about Irie, she sounded exactly like Carol G. Brister from Renton that I read, as well as the prosecutor in this case, white woman, where both of them said Mary Kay was so plotting and that they both thought it was a total lie for her to say that Vili pursued her and he flirted with her and he initiated. Like, what are you talking about? He's 12. You are grown. You are a grown white woman, no less. Like, at minimum, as Irie said, educator, at minimum, hey, you redirect. That's something that I just said, you're supposed to go through some sort of education program, I think, or at least I've been told. You don't just let anybody walk in off the street and begin teaching, do you? But she's went through, so you're supposed to know how to redirect. If you have, someone going through puberty and all of that, she said the hormone, you redirect them in a correct manner. That's a part of being a teacher, not, well, I just let it happen. She said, oh, you what? Anyway, it's going to be one separate report. Again, lots of this information available. Oh, yeah. Gotta include this one. And they even had a report about SeaTac Airport, where Steve worked at too. But this is from the Seattle Times. This is February 9, 1998. Oh, excuse me, not the Seattle Times, beg pardon. The Spokane Review, which is the opposite side of the state of Washington. Like, this is like way, they mentioned Spokane, like this is close to like Washington State. This is way in the eastern, like way far, like far enough, I think, for a lot of people. This is a flight. This would be like a 5-hour drive to get to Spokane from Seattle. So Spokane, so Mary Kay then blow up the whole Evergreen State. So February 8, 1998, mom angry at boy, not Letourneau. I had to get this one in. Mother of the 14-year-old boy at the center of the Mary Kay Letourneau child rape case says she is angry at her son, not his former teacher, for their latest transgression when she learned her son had been found in a car with Letourneau at 3 a.m. Tuesday. What went through my mind was, I'm going to strangle him, the mother said in an interview with TV's American Journal, which is scheduled to air today in most markets. Their meeting, which violated a no-contact order imposed on Letourneau, resulted Friday in the former teacher being ordered to serve the 7.5-year sentence imposed last fall, but suspended because she was a first-time offender. I was more angry at him than her. I don't feel like she betrayed me. Who I feel betrayed me is my son, The mother said in the interview her name was withheld to protect her son as a rape victim. The boy's mother is caring for the 8-month-old baby girl that the relationship between the son and Letourneau produced last spring. The two met when the boy was a second grader and began having sex after Letourneau, then the married mother of 4, taught him again as a 6th grader. He was 13 when their daughter was born. Anything else? The boy's mother said she feels the sentence imposed on Letourneau is a harsh penalty. If it were up to me, I'd say you're going to do 6 months of jail time. She said, I think he truly loves her, and I think she truly loves him too. No matter how sick it sounds, I think they truly love each other. If the day she's let out of jail my son is still in love with her and they hold true to each other, then yes, I will welcome her into the family, the mother said. Wow. Victims. Not sounding like she's going to beat up Mary Kay anytime soon. Victims. Let's see. The email, I forgot number 2. Hi, Cows, audience, and Gus. 1. Dave Cullen's portrayal of Dylan Klebold as an innocent victim of Eric Harris did cause a few Cows listeners to defend Eric, including me. Gregg Olsen visited Mary Kay in prison and is clearly sympathetic towards her, so it's no surprise that Steve's character is maligned. Isn't he the lamest of the lame? Sick white brother? 2. That said, I'm puzzled by why he stayed with Mary Kay and hoped their marriage could be saved when he initially discovered she was raping Vili, a child. Now, he was having sex with another white chick too, so it's like, and they got these kids, so it's not like, we're best homies or whatever. I'm going out and doing my thing and you're doing your thing, so and none of us care about children, so maybe we can 3. I finally watched Notes on a Scandal documentary, but not All American Girl, which is not a documentary, which I know I wouldn't be able to stomach. That's the one today we heard that Steve's with stepmom, his latest fling or whatever, Kelly, she said she had to read them the riot act because they showed All American Girl at the school. That's one of the many, this is not a documentary like Hollywood fictionalized films, where they get some like 20-year-old, 19-year-old non-white actor to portray Vili, and then they'll show him like he's a man-child and a manly man and all that. See, that's the one that they show. And even the title, All American Girl, like if you're going to show that to young people and not at least point out those 2 things, like number 1, Vili was 12, 13 years old when this happened. They get a 20-year-old to portray him. And then the title of this movie is All American Girl, Mary Kay, who was 35 when this happened. Now let's watch the movie, class. Like those 2, let's highlight those 2 things first. And then let's watch the movie, because I don't think my brain computer at 14 would register those 2 things like, whoa, wait a minute. I thought Vili was, this dude does not look, wait a minute, wait. And why is it a girl? She's not a girl. She's 35. Yeah. Like, you have to give me that up front. And then let's rock and roll. Okay, let's watch it. And then maybe even, hey, is this racism? Let's watch. And then we'll talk about it. But if you're not going to do that, oh my God, who is going to show this to a class of children? Like, what? Do what? Jesus. Okay, so she didn't watch All American Girl, but they showed it to the middle schoolers, I guess. The documentary does not include people who share those. The characterization of Mary Kay as a victim and child rape as a love story. The documentary does not include people who share those views, but it strongly counters that narrative, identifying Mary Kay as the child raping pedophile that she was, and Vili her victim. True. A couple of the documentaries, they do that. They'll call him a victim explicitly and her a child rapist. 4. Gregg Olsen paints the picture that most people agreed with Mary Kay's child raping ways, but the documentary indicates that people did want to see her punished and ostracized her supporters. You heard some of the news clip. Now you heard a little bit of both. So it certainly, she did have groupies, but there certainly were people who, correct thinking people, my God, what in the world? Ugh, raping a child, a teacher no less. Oh, it's disgusting. Let's see. 5. But not enough of them, which makes me wonder why Mary Kay was prosecuted, because her sentence wasn't long enough. People who rape and molest children should be given a life sentence because the harm lasts a lifetime. Now, wasn't the Jeffrey Epstein? Oh, wait a minute. You got to be lucky she went to prison at all. 2-time child rapist. I mean, they are super lenient. Woody Allen, I could pick a lot of folks. Very, very lenient on child rape around these parts. Jeffrey Dahmer. Anyway, and they had the audacity to say, babies is being raped at the Superdome. Oh my goodness, you Negro looters. The audacity. Mary Kay had just got out of prison by the time Katrina rolled around. Let's see. Not enough of them. People who rape should get a lifetime sentence. And child rapists who impregnate their victims or are impregnated by them should be given additional life sentences with no hope of parole. That is super crazy talk. After all, a pregnancy ties a victim to their perpetrator for life. I think that's so important. I just said, I think some of the listeners did too. Mary Kay was so manipulative in, I'll get him to get me pregnant. Now, I can manipulate him for life. It'll give me, even that puts me in a better position because they had to delay her sentencing. She's got a baby bump. You can't, she's pregnant. We've got to let her express milk. Like, man, you talking about, and this is someone who is by all evidence. This is not Gus T's opinion. I'm just going by the evidence. She gets an F as a mom. You can't be a child rapist and get any grade other than an F. Now, I could go to the nails in the floor, the dirty diapers, using your own child to cover up your child rape. It's a whole lot of things I could point out and be like, you can't keep gas in the car. It's a whole lot of things I could point out, but I mean, we'll do it quick. You can't be a child rapist and get any grade as a parent other than F. Period. She should have had her parental rights terminated a couple times, maybe. Let's see. But the deliberate manipulation of the parent, it's not even, she wasn't a quality parent, but I will get pregnant because I know the power of, I'm a white mom. Even an F parent, but I'm a white mom and I can manipulate it. And she did. Let's see. Mary Kay got pregnant deliberately and should have received a double life sentence, 1 count for each life she created by raping Vili. 6. As with other criminal acts we have read about in the book club, crime does pay for white people. The media made money publishing the love story narrative and sexualized Vili, turning him into the perpetrator and facilitating his ongoing victimization by Mary Kay. C.O.W.S. Fualaau's poverty was also exploited by the media, and they helped Mary Kay make money from the rape of a child. 7. I strongly believe Mary Kay's father was the person who sexually abused her as a child. The fact that she idolized him as an adult is one more twisted factor in a very deviant life. They did talk about it. It was almost kind of sexualized. I think someone, they said that Mary Kay looked at him the way that Nancy looked at Ronald Reagan. I think we talked about that then, being like, that's kind of odd because that was his wife, unless I'm bad. My memory is bad about the metaphors, but I think we had talked about that before, but not as explicitly with thinking that maybe he had abused her, not some other member of the family. Let's see. Gregg Olsen knew this and is low-key co-signing incest in my opinion, and that's the reason why he included the strange inscription at the beginning of the book that champions child rape. People have said that. I think people throughout the text have said that they think Gregg Olsen is in agreement with this, like child rape, pedophilia, as white culture. But they've said that throughout the text. So, 8. But for some, the legacy of the story will endure. Danelle Johnson's daughter, oh my God, Molly is the one. Remember, they said that when they found out about all this, and she was the one that Mary Kay kicked to the curb, like, stop hanging around. We don't want you, just, stop hanging out. We thought about why that was. And then she was the one later on. I don't know if it was impacted by Mary Kay and all this, but she allegedly was taken to some Asian gang to lose her virginity. That's Molly, remember? And Danelle Johnson is her mom. Danelle Johnson's daughter became pregnant at 14. She wasn't the only girl in Miss Letourneau's class that had ended up like that. When my daughter told me she was pregnant by a man older than 18, though I'm not sure how much older, she said her pregnancy was just like Miss Letourneau's with Vili. It was love. The age difference, the whole Romeo and Juliet thing, some lessons she learned in that 6th grade class. Jesus Christ. I previously wrote she groomed more children than Vili and put others at risk of exploitation and abuse by other predators, so this does not surprise me. Rest in hell, Mary Kay Letourneau. That is so disgusting and just wow. I mean, white people do not care about children, and then they'll come back and say that whoever this child rapist was, well, he's really a teenager in a child's body, unless the person looks like Diddy or Bill Cosby. Let's see. I should do my note. We only had one section today. One. And I still didn't really read any of my notes per se, which kind of happened the whole way through the book. We had lots of participation, way more than normal. I was surprised. Great, wonderful cowbell, but whoopee. But I did not do most of my notes, and I still feel like we had constructive read. I learned quite a bit. I didn't know anything about Mary Kay. I still feel it's one of those when they talk like you have the school project, you have to work as a group, and sometimes you don't really contribute very much to the project. And hey, we still got an A. And hey, I was kind of sleep through. Hey, it's still 10. Hey, got an A. It doesn't matter, and just everybody gets an A. And woo, great. Had great participation. I didn't really even read my notes most of the time. So, and we still had constructive book study. So sometimes you can depend on your counter-racist, I guess, attempted comrades, and they can carry the day. Bravo. Maybe I'll meet some of my notes at least from this week. Let's see. Steve Letourneau comes off as such a lame, like, it's rare to read a book where, like, a white man just talks bad about another white man for the entire text, but that is pretty much what we got. I can't even really think of another time where that has happened throughout our time. I do think it's important that we got an explicit telling of a so-called ghost writer. That's come up so many times. We talked about this. If I can think of one, Robert Williams, Black and White, The Way I See It, Serena and Venus's dad, Richard Williams, that he had a ghostwriter, white person. That's typically what it is. I think Madiba's autobiography is the same thing, where it's a white person. Sometimes they'll be named, often unnamed, and they're, sitting editing and adding and writing and all of that. So get to hear it here explicitly, and then hear the person who allegedly wrote this, Mary Kay, and she's grousing and complaining and they lied, blah, blah, blah. But I thought that was important because that happened. We talked about that for years at the book club here, and often it is a black author, wink, wink, with a white ghostwriter. Let's see. I've seen the French book. I think that's translated if people are interested in reading, and they have software now, so even if it's not translated, it would be very easy to get an English copy. But I think it's translated if you really want to check it out. Let's see. She said that the lawyer, Robert Huff, was like a surrogate father, and that staggered me because we were told that the journalist who had interviewed them, that he was like a surrogate father before. And I said, what did he do exactly? Like, did they hang out? Like, and I said, even then, I said, that sounds kind of inappropriate. Like a journalist? Like, really? Why would they have that close a relation? like what? Like, what? And then she says it, but let's see. I believe all this stuff when they're talking about Vili drove her to the car when she was in labor and blah, blah, blah. I believe all that, even though he was 13, because that's what they talked about the whole time. She and Suna not agreeing, that's another one I would put in with the names, because this is a disagreement about the names and the disagreement about the hair. I don't want my half-white child having no mop of slicked black curls. See, we heard about that, all of that. What do you mean? This is racism. Maximum racist aggression. Long list. Now, we can just the child rape and leave it at that, but it would be a long list. And all of these white people saying, they are beneath the Letourneaus. I mean, they're not even on the same level of people. Mary Kay and them can't even afford gas. I really wish I could have got my hands on the Oprah Winfrey episode where they talked about all of this. I failed thus far. If anyone finds it, share. Let's see. This was about 15 years, 16 years before recreational cannabis became legal in Seattle. So I suspect it's pretty common for someone 15, 14, 17 to puff, pass, or vape, or gummy, or whatever on all of the Seattle campuses throughout the land. In fact, I think I've heard a few times that is a massive problem and has been for a long time, because I mean it's been legal for 13 years at this point. So whatever, that's not even yawn at this point. Cannabis is bad for the brain computer at that age. Brain damage, we've talked about that repeatedly. Let's see. Mary Kay had the audacity when they found out that Vili's brother accidentally shoots himself, is what we're told, in the stomach. And she says, oh my God, my daughters are living in an unsafe environment. Is that the milk calling the snowflake white? What? Like, what? I really wouldn't care what they're doing. Like, you should have your parental rights terminated. Like, if things had operated correctly, the only response would need to be, aren't you the one that had your parental rights terminated? Oh, okay. Shut up. Like, what do you... Shut up. Dare I say that shooting, if you hadn't raped his brother, maybe there would be a lot less stress and toxicity in the house, and this wouldn't have happened. How about that? But didn't you have your parental rights terminated? Okay, shut up. Talking fool talk. Jesus Christ. Let's see. She said, oh my gosh, she said, I'm struggling with my loyalty to them. I thought, didn't this author tell us that Mary Kay was about loyalty? You look up loyalty in the dictionary and Mary Kay picture is there. She is loyal. Didn't she say that? How in the world, he said that, Mr. Olsen, how in the world C.O.W.S Fualaau got up in court after you raped her son and said, my child is not a victim, and I don't think she should go to prison. Let's go back to the beginning of the book. When those police officers had her at the marina, they knew she lied about his age. She's raping this boy. Let's call the mom to see what all this is. C.O.W.S Fualaau could have had you in jail right then. I don't know what is up with that. They were at where? At what time? Why are they? I don't know. That sounds fishy. That's what we thought too. You're going to jail. Find your skirt. We're going to the station. For both of those incidents, you should be loyal for life. And she is taking care of you. Are you serious? Like, who is this? Woo, disgusting. Let's see. White people do not care about children. Let's see. The Mary Kay threatened to say that Vili raped her. Already mentioned that. I thought that was one of the most important portions of the book. And the automatic castration, all of that, that is right at the core of Mary Kay. That right there, you cannot be telling me that he was the one who was making passes at you and he initiated and he was a man and a manly man with manly needs. And you're talking about, hey, look here, I'm going to show you, same thing with Steve. I'm going to show you who wear the britches in this here household. You're going to do what I say. Or I'm going to tell him that the brown boy raped me, and you know I get to flicking my blonde hair and I get lachrymose like I did up in the courtroom. And they go talk to your dad again. Better act right, Vili. I thought that was one of the most important portions of the book. Let's see. All of these little lines here where he says, Olsen says, the Fualaus, when they were going to sell a video they had found of Mary Kay teaching class. What did I just say? Diapers are expensive. Now we got 6 children to take care of, a third of them courtesy of Mary Kay raping my child. We got to do anything we can to get a few nickels. We didn't even have shoes before all this started. They're going to go sell the video, and Olsen says they needed the money for a family who had once lived on next to nothing, who had been on welfare and made do. They needed the cash that Mary Kay's name could bring. Whoa, whoa, whoa. They need cash because Mary Kay raped their son, and now they got 2 extra mouths to take care of? Come on, Gregg Olsen, you're so lame. Like, you can do all this, caping for Mary Kay at Steve's expense, but he does a lot of this at Vili and C.O.W.S. Fualaau. Like, what? Are you serious? C.O.W.S. Fualaau was hurting way worse than Mary Kay. She didn't go out raping no child. Mary Kay is the last person in the universe, Gregg Olsen or anyone else, should feel the need, unless it's just she's blonde and white. I mean, oh, and they wanted her to finish the book. This is, we got all these children to take care of, Mary Kay. Can you finish doing, it's not, you're in prison. It's not like you got anything else to do. Lamest of the lame. Let's see. I thought it was, Gregg Olsen calls Mary Kay's children her 6 angels. He got that in quotes. I don't know if that's Mary Kay's word or what have you. That's he says the 4 in Alaska were off limits because baggage handler Steve Letourneau had decided that was best. That's another one where I'm just like, why is that even necessary? I mean, why do you... My sick white brother Steve, I'm not caping for him, but I'm just saying, why is that even needed? Got to get jab it on no count luggage slanging Steve. Like, okay, we got it. He is a no count white dude. Got it. But I mean, really, Mary Kay should have had her parental rights terminated. Why are we oh, it's so sad when she can't see her little white angels. Are you serious? Are you serious? Really, be concerned. Do her children, do you all have any playmates who are attractive, dark, manly, about 13, 14? You better tell them to run. He called her, wait a minute, he said... Mary Kay told friends that the paperwork for which C.O.W.S was responsible was the big holdup in arranging visits with Audrey in Georgia. When the weeks melted into months through a third party, Mary Kay confronted the Samoan Queen. That's another one because he got that in quotes. So I think that's Mary Kay. Oh my God. The racism, white. Neely Fuller. He said that. Racism, white supremacy through and through. You should forever have the utmost regard for Miss Fualaau, not Samoan Queen, and stop putting that grease in my daughter's hair. And let's see. Maybe she didn't want her grandchildren to be around a child rapist. How about that? That's logical to me. I had never heard that term used, sex, love, and I thought the same thing. And Fuller said that as well, that a lot of times people will use love when they just mean sexual activity. That is not a synonym, not even close. Fuller says it should be, if anything, justice, love. Those are the two words that are equivalent, and ain't nowhere in this book you could pop out love and replace it with justice. That is what Fuller suggests, not no sex is like, get out of here. And especially sex with a 12. Oh, she's so disgusting. Let's see. Vili, and he come back, he said, Mary Kay is a teenager trapped in a grown woman's body. Vili is a father of 2, a teenager trapped in a grown man's responsibilities. He is a victim of rape. Period. 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 It is worthy of great pity, all of this. It is so disgusting. And I just know the person that he sympathizes with is Mary Kay. I mean, it is so flagrantly obvious. He doesn't even like Steve. Much less C.O.W.S Fualaau or Vili. They're just gang-banging hoodlum niggas, basically. But it's child raping Mary Kay. Ooh. Let's see. Anything else? Mary Kay giving up everything. Jesus. Let's see. Oh, she says, like a teenager who refuses to do the dishes, Mary had been unyielding in her defiance and did nothing to bend to the rules of prison life. She is not a teenager. Like, what? Woo, through the entire book. But then all of this and her conduct in prison, white defiance. And most of this, in my view, comes from, I didn't do nothing wrong anyway. Yeah, I slept with that little non-white nigger boy. So what? So what? That is not a crime. I am a white. Well, you don't tell me. You don't tell me to wear a mask. You don't tell me not to sleep with that nigger boy. I am white and blonde on top of that. A boy man. I never heard that either. A boy man. Jesus Christ. She gets classified as charming a number of times in this text as well. I've never met someone who is so charming that would make me forget, oh, I'm talking to a child rapist. Like, are you serious? Come on. I think Diddy is a lot more charming and funny than Mary Kay. Like, lots more. He even blames Steve. Well, why did he step in to stop all this with Mary Kay? I don't know what Steve was supposed to do. One, Steve got his own white woman on the side. So, I mean, I don't know. He was just trying to focus on, can we at least get you to stop spending all the money? Can we get gas in the car? Can you? And he did. He said they used to fight about the brown boy. What more can I do? She is a grown white woman. I smacked her around. I told her. I confronted the brown boy. What more can I do? I'm not the strongest white man in the room. What more can I do? She wears the breeches in the family. What am I to do? He could have called the police. He could have, but they said, never mind. Let's see. I do not think that the so-called media or anyone else exploited Mary Kay in all this, which is a question Gregg Olsen asks. I also think that is repulsive, disgusting. If anything, Mary Kay exploited Vili and even the media to get all this attention, but I do not believe that the media exploited Mary Kay. Like, come on. And I don't know who the teacher was who showed All American Girl in class. I think I did say that they should read this book in school with guidance, but Jesus Christ, that is way different than showing that fictionalized work to a group of, who knows, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds. Like, woo, man. That might be. The Romeo and Juliet, that's another. That metaphor gets used a lot. They were the same age. Juliet was not 40. Romeo was not 15. Come on. That is the most retarded, like, I guess you can get away with that. People, you could watch the movie versions or whatever, but all of the movie versions, the book version, all of them, they are the same age. You could have picked a Woody Allen film. He's got lots of them. Apropos of Nothing, we did read that one as well. Woof. If you didn't hear that, you could pick several books. Actually, apropos of Nothing, I did mention Jeff Dahmer because he did do some child raping. Did that before he got to the munching, and then even got back to the child raping of non-white. He did the same thing Mary Kay did. Police come and they could have nipped all this in the bud immediately. Oh no, we didn't do nothing wrong, officer. Everything is fine. We just kicking it. We homie. He's 18. It's the same thing Mary Kay. He's 18. Everything's fine. Okay, Jeff. Okay, Mary Kay. I guess at least with Mary Kay, they did call the child's parents. They didn't do that with Jeff Dahmer. He was slick, blonde, white. White people do not care about children. If I'd known about Mary Kay when Mr. Fuller told me, I would have been saying that because he told me about that before the cows came back on the air. I could have came back out with that as a jab immediately. Like, pow, pow. What were you doing while you were off? I was studying Mary Kay. White people do not care about children, even there. And that's the way I would say it, too. I would say it that way naked every time, because they don't even care about white children. F. Vili. He's not a victim. He's a rapist. No problem. Mary Kay didn't even care about her own white children. You can say the same for Steve. All those extra you can say the same for her. You can just run down the line. White people do not, even the way that they respond. Why do you have groupies for a child rapist? You can just run down. Forget Vili. Forget Vili. Look at all the rest of this. White people do not care about children. What teacher showed All-American Girl to a class of children? For what? To say what? That Mary Kay hot, ain't she? Woo! Anyway, got my highlights in today. Anyone extra thought, Mary Kay, anything that folks shared, listeners wrote in that they want to get in, final comment on old Mary Kay, victim, not victim, Vili?
Mr. Renegade, I thought Miss Irie brought out a good point about the sexual abuse that women impose sex on males, but it's through seduction. And so they arouse the male, convince him it's okay to engage in sexual activity. In this example, she's in a position of authority, white woman, teacher. Dr. Welsing, I believe, gave an example that if a black male is invited by a white woman to meet together privately, that he should bring a black female with him to prevent anything sexual from happening. Another thing you had mentioned about any examples where, rape was resolved privately. And I got thinking about Strom Thurmond and Nessie Mae Washington's mother, how that was handled outside of court. I mean, it wouldn't have been prosecuted anyway. But, it's one of these examples where the offspring get dumped on the non-white person's family. And I know he's not white, and I'm not making a suggestion for you to do this, but have you considered interviewing Vili? I don't know if he's still in the Seattle area or whatnot, but yeah, just wondered about that. Thank you.
Man, I didn't know about that. So I guess, no, I had not. I didn't know about this case, right, until we started reading the books. I could have, he could have walked in front of me and be like, oh, yeah, I'm Vili Fualaau, blah, blah, blah. Let's say January of this year. He could have walked in front of me and said, oh, yeah, what's up, Gus T? I'm Vili Fualaau. Listen to the program. That no sex with white people, you might be on to something. I'd be like, wow. What'd you say your name was? Vili Fualaau. Okay. Vili Fualaau. Vili Fualaau. Are you noteworthy? Like, yeah, I'm Mary Kay. Like, Mary Kay. Oh, that was the teacher. Right. You knew her? Oh, you were the one. Yeah, like, okay, catch me up. Okay, I'm going to get it. Wow. And that would have been it, because I really, I didn't know enough. But anyway, that's tough, because this is worthy of great pity. It would, man, that would not be a fun interview at all. Like, worthy of great, especially like the same questions we've been asking the whole time. Like, did you drop out of school? What were yours? Woo! Man, now that you've had time to reflect on this, do you think this could have been related to racism? Mary Kay selecting you as a non-white person? Do you think your family being non-white had an impact on the settlement, how you were talked about? do you think you're a victim now? It would be like, man, like the reason we have the no non-white guest policy, like, Jesus Christ, like, oh my God. And this is cowbell, like non-white people, my whole life experience of counter-racism, non-white people go berserk. There is no logic. It is super emotion when it's bedroom with a white person. And this is, I was raped as a 12-year-old by my teacher. We had children and got married. You want me to sit down and go through counter-racist life? I mean, all that trauma. It's not like I got counseling. Hey, they told me for years, it's your fault. They said that, I heard that in the one of the videos today, that Vili going around feeling guilty. Oh, man, Mary Kay in prison, and it's my fault. Now, imagine that after everything we read. And this is Vili at, like, 16. Even if he was 25 or 30, it wouldn't matter. But this is Vili at like 16, 17. Oh, man. You had kept your pants up, Mary Kay wouldn't be in this position. Can you imagine? What? Even his mom, but I just read the article where his mom said she's mad at him. Y'all ought to let Mary Kay, that if I get my hands on, what? Anyway, all of that would be going through my head like, geez, you want a smoothie, brother? I would, like, oh, that just seems like the least fun interview ever. If he was open to chatting, I reckon, but wow, that seems so, and he's done something, that just seems so exploitative, like, Jesus Christ, how many interviews do I have to do about being raped as a child by a white woman? Anyway, you all did say the women, because I did ask that about a female cannot, Dr. Welsing, we talked about that, female cannot impose sexual intercourse. Report, this is from recent, or not that recent, sorry, let me give the exact date. This is from the Chicago Tribune, March 1, 1998. When older women take teen partners, if law isn't broken, moral issues fuzzier. That's in the word guide, fuzzy. They fell in love at a neighborhood sandwich shop in southwestern suburban Worth, where she worked the grill and he did the cleanup. She was 26, a newly divorced mother of 2 trying to make ends meet. He was 16, a high school junior, hustling a few jobs for side money. That ain't what? That ain't Mary Kay, but I guess they're coming. I'm skipping down. Since the movie Summer of 42 has the public been so barraged with real life and TV examples of women in their 30s seeking teenage lovers, and unlike the couple from Worth, throwing caution, convention, and careers to the winds. There's Mary Kay Letourneau, 36, the former Seattle school teacher who had a child by a 13-year-old pupil and was convicted of child rape. A judge released her from jail on the condition that she never see the boy again, but Letourneau could not stay away and was recently sent back to prison to serve out a 7.5-year sentence. And they give other illustrations. Oh, and they have different television shows where I guess this was all playing out at the same time, having some 30-year-old white woman with a teenage sex partner. It was not meant to reflect real life. This TV show, at the same time, the cases in Seattle and the Hastings show, Dawson's Creek, that officials are not viewing teenage sex with an older woman as a rite of passage to be congratulated or at least ignored, as might have been the notion in the past. The chief of the Sex Crimes Division in the Cook County State's Attorney's Office said that among the 600 felony cases pending in the department, 75% involve victims under age 17, but less than 5% of the alleged offenders are female. In his 11 years with the department, Cavins could remember only 2 or 3 cases of women in a position of power charged with abusing a minor. Let's see. the cases are titillating and they're far from the norm. Supporters of Letourneau point to instances where male celebrities took teenage lovers with less than dire consequences, and when even a 4-decade-wide age gap did not raise a public outcry. They bring up Jerry Lee Lewis, Roman Polanski, and Woody Allen might be in here as well. I don't know. Letourneau and the boy became a couple, said Phyllis Sidney, a Beverly Hills business owner who for 8 years ran a dating club for older women and younger men. You don't break up a loving couple. The male here is much more a man than someone older because he is committed to her. Although Sidney is not troubled by the boy's tender age, public opinion is far harsher about the topic, and the law clearly forbids sexual relations between adults and minors. I'll stop there, although they do have more about the Letourneau case and some of the other cases at the time, and they do even mention some of the groupies who, Jesus Christ, are you serious? Are you? Anyway, they mentioned some of the groupies who, this isn't a crime. You all ought to be shamed. Love doesn't know no age. You heard Aaliyah. All these folks should be like working overtime to get R. Kelly exonerated, right? Did he? Whatever. Did we miss anybody? Final thought on Mary Kay? We'll assume folks are good. Whew. Wow, so much to learn from Mary Kay. Even that website, MaryKayLetourneau.com, www.MaryKayLetourneau.com. You can go to the Wayback Archive, and you can. They had and this is the infancy of internet technology and such, 30 years ago, basically. They were having online call-ins where they would call Mary Kay Letourneau, and so you could just go and listen and hear, I guess, their interview. What has she been up to? How you fold the napkins? Are you working on translating the book? And all this. And they would, you could go to MaryKayLetourneau.com and hear her directly, maybe ask a question or two in the chat room and all that. But white people do not care about children. Maybe they got this set up for Diddy now, where he can do the chat line and call-ins and let us know. Woo! We'll be here tomorrow. Compensatory call-in, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Shooting in Minneapolis. Get to repeat myself. Much obliged. Lots of participation for the book club. Stunning. Hopefully worthy of your time and energy. Sobriety would be best. That no count. Mary Kay got mad dog for Vili too. Remember, they went to the 7-Eleven. They said they found the liquor in the car. This is after she'd already been convicted. Supposed to be behaving herself. No cannabis, no liquor, sobriety, especially for the children, young people. Creator, we ask that you remind us to stop saying not all white people are racist. Remind us to stop producing throwaway offspring to be raped by Mary Kay. Stop name-calling people classified as black. Replace white supremacy with justice immediately. Cow signing out. Thanks all for tuning in.
Nigga, you so brainwashed.
I'm a victim, brother.
Problem. You're a victim.
I'm a victim of 400 years of conditioning.
Shut up.
The man has programmed my conditioning. Even my conditioning has been conditioned.